Gavel away, Kate.
Hi, we're going to reconvene the regular meeting of the May 2nd Brattleboro Select Board. We know the meeting has been warned because we came together at 5:45 for interviews for the energy coordinator position. What I would like now is to have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 18th meeting.
So,
We have a motion to approve.
oh, wait a minute, I can't.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
Well, we'll go into that later, but
Okay,
okay.
yeah, okay.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 18th meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? You can vote for them, John.
Well, you know, I'm just trying to be correct. So, move along.
Is the vote 5-0?
I guess it is.
5-0.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Throw the gavel at you.
We'll throw the gavel at you,
Yeah.
John. Okay, so we approve that motion 5-0. Chair's remarks, there were two really happy things for our town since we last met. The first was the ribbon cutting for the West Brattleboro Fire Station. It was a great event. If you didn't get to be there, I'm sure the fire department would love to show you the new station. It's beautiful. And not only does it look nice, but it functions the way we need things to function. So that's really great. The other is on Saturday, I believe it was, the library held an open house because they have done some renovations there that make that place a lot better looking and again more functional. So if you haven't been able to go to the library, you should visit there too because it's wonderful.
I'll have to go to the fire station because I missed
Yeah,
it.
John missed it, so John will go.
They'll be happy to give you a tour.
They'll be happy to give you a tour.
Thanks, fellas.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So if anybody hasn't been able to go see those two facilities, I highly recommend that you do that. Now we'll have town manager's comments if you have any.
Thank you. I do too. One more in the spirit of celebrations. The Vermont All-State Music Festival is coming to Brattleboro. These will be high school students from, I think, middle school students too, but coming from all over the state.
High school.
Just high school? Thank you. So the high school students will be coming from all over the state. It's both instrumental and voice. They'll be here the end of next week, starting Wednesday, the 10th of May, and into the weekend. And there'll be a series of concerts, so there's more going on around this than just the one thing I wanted to announce tonight. But because there will be some impact on Main Street, we thought it was important to call out that there will be actually a marching band parade, and these will be like the best marching bands from high school students from all over the state. And it's an opportunity to see sort of a good old-fashioned parade with multiple bands all coming up Main Street one after another. They'll be forming down. It's going to follow the same route as the Strolling of the Heifers parade. So they'll be forming down by the New England Youth Theater beginning at about 6 o'clock on the evening of Wednesday, May 10th. And then the parade will step off at 6:45, and it'll come up Flat Street and Main Street all the way to the Common. The heads up to the community, if you like marching bands and you want to be part of the festivities, come on down and enjoy it. If you don't, be aware that there will be some impact to Main Street. So the meters will be bagged in the late afternoon because we need for the street to be clear by the time the parade steps off at 6:45. And the road will be closed for a period of time while the parade passes through. But we're glad to have the opportunity to host the All-State Festival in its entirety, beginning with this parade. And then in the theme of unexpected closures of Main Street or unusual closures of Main Street, hats off to the fire department and to everybody else who participated in the fire response last week. There was a situation that could have been really dire for our community with a fire on the east side of Main Street and the potential that there was actually a fire on the back side of the building. It turned out, thankfully, to be a small fire and just outside, but had it spread into the interior of the structure and being on the east side of Main Street, that's particularly hard for the firefighters to get at. It could have really been a terrible situation. Not only did our department respond appropriately and in a very timely manner and with all the normal terrific support that our fire department gets from the rest of our town staff team, from the police department and the public works department and others. But we also got mutual aid from 8 different communities, Chief?
3 different states.
Yeah, from three states and 8 different fire departments who responded. So Main Street looked like we were having the real thing. Thank goodness it didn't turn out that way, but the all the proper equipment was there and lots of personnel were there in case we had to actually get inside and fight the
What
fire.
a good drill.
It actually was that. Yep.
Really?
And lots of really terrific communication going on. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Peter. Does anybody on the select board have any comments or committee reports? Oh, David.
Yep, and thanks, Peter, for mentioning the All States. Last year was up in Missisquoi, which is the exact opposite end of the state. It only comes here about every 20 years or so, and it's really an exquisite series of programs. As you said, the best kids in the state, and so I hope a lot of people attend those. Also, Saturday, the farmers market opens for either the 43rd or 44th year. Nobody really knows. But it's been a long time. And at 11 o'clock, there's the traditional maypole with Andy Davis. So if you have kids, 11 o'clock.
Anyone else? Now we're going to go to public participation, and this is a time for anyone in the public to talk about something that is not on tonight's meeting agenda. So if you have an issue that you'd like to raise that's not on the agenda, this is your opportunity. Dale, if you will tell the public who you are and where you're from, that would be terrific.
I'm Gail Joy, and I was born and raised right here in Brattleboro. I might leave every once in a while, but I come back. I want to continue what I've been doing for the last few weeks, coming to the select board meeting, talking about landlords vacating people for no reason at all, or using bad reasoning to vacate a person. It happened to me. And if it could happen to me, it can happen to people that are less likely to stand up for themselves more often. Tonight I want to read a letter, and I made sure this letter went to the management at Bast Investments with a thing at the bottom saying for public use, because we were going to use it in a court of law. But Bast slipped a good one on me and turned all his buildings over to 10 lawyers. In other words, he sold them to 10 lawyers to protect himself. And that's all right with me, but it's still gonna be public news. So what I want to do is read this letter, and then I want to ask, I know Peter and I are going to talk about some of these other lawyers here, landlords here in town, and try to get some kind of census on what we need to do to prevent something like this happening to anybody else. Okay. This, Deb Hicks was the office manager. So this went to her. Her name, Dear Deb Hicks, I wrote a reply to the vacate notice. It surprised me that in winter you chose to vacate me, since I made statements about the cold air coming in under the sink again. You said we would have to wait till winter came again to address that issue. Winter is here, and so is the cold draft from under the kitchen cabinets. And my pipes froze again. I didn't write that, that wasn't in the letter, but my pipes froze again. And so maybe it wasn't just because of that. When I told you about the 2 women who came to see me about the man who lived in the adjacent apartment and a possible rape, and you said, I don't want to hear anything about it. I let you know one of the women was a friend of Larry Cassidy's daughter, who owns Bast Investments. I may as well tell you the rest since everybody in the building knows about it, and this all may come out in court. September 1st, a woman went running out of the apartment in the middle of the night. There was a lot of noise. I didn't much think about it because it had happened a few times in the previous months before with different women running out of the apartment. This man likes to party, smokes his pot and drinks his beer. And as long as he didn't blow his pot near any of my windows, I was okay with it. A few times I did have to talk with him about the pot, and he was good enough to blow it out his back window instead of near my kitchen window. Or sometimes he would cook a lot of garlic to try and cover the smell. He seemed a bit different, and he has told me his story. Although I knew some things about him before I moved in there, as I did with most of the tenants, he and I had a mutual friend. It was David. It was his boyfriend of about 13 years. It didn't bother me that I was moving into a building where my neighbor was on the down low. In fact, I was relieved since he was going to be the one living right next to me. I didn't have to worry about a man with sexual harassment issues living next to me, so I thought. To get back to the night of September 1st, when I got out of bed to see what was going on, and I went to his door, knocked, and he opened the door. He said he was on the phone with the police. I asked if he was all right. He said yes. It was just some girl who was very drunk. I went back to my apartment and couldn't sleep because the sounds were like sounds of depression, somewhat like when a mother hears a child who's in distress. The next thing that happened about this incident at that apartment was when, I'm back to that 2 women who came to my door. They were asking me questions about that man. They were very polite and wanted a picture of him so they could shame him. They said the police wouldn't do anything at the time. I understood from them that the commotion on September 1st was about the possible rape. Then I wondered about all the months of similar noises when other women left his apartment. Were they similar? Was he drugging them, bringing them there in the middle of the night and taking advantage of them? I did some research and found there had been a 10-year history of him and possible rapes before September 1st. The names of these women cannot be released right now. There are pending issues about this whole matter. Since this man is a friend of the Cassidys family, it would behoove you to inquire more about his partying, smoking pot, and all the issues that may arise because you now have knowledge about his partying and possible serial rapist behavior. Seducing women and raping them while they are knocked out is not normal behavior. And in vast investment buildings, knowing may set you up for a lawsuit. Is this the issue you have decided to vacate me for? Because I told you about the issue. It was soon after I told you when I got this notice. Or is it better business and economic decisions to vacate me, thinking you will not have to fix the health problems in the building, or possibly the issue with Cassidy's friend, that you will be able to ignore everything again? That don't sound right, but you know what I mean. The issue here is, are you really going to try and vacate me because you think it would economically be better for you when there is someone else in the building who has more potential to cause you financial damage? Or are you that much of a friend to him that you would put a woman in jeopardy because of your friendship? In either case, it is now out, and you cannot hide from this issue either. As a tenant, I am entitled to a jury trial. That's upon being vacated. I trust the system more than I trust someone who told me I could not talk to anyone in the building or who falsifies legal documents. I don't want to move until I am finished with college, but you are forcing the issue. I will try to find another rental that is suitable, but as you know, it will be difficult to move in the middle of winter, and other landlords will want to know why I had to move. You didn't make that part easier either. In fact, it's as if you intended it to be difficult. Is this the retribution for complaining to the state health department to get you to fix these problems that have been going on here for years? This has put a lot of unnecessary stress on me as I complete my degree, try to keep my business going and seek a better life. And then I said, see you in court. Well, instead of seeing me in court, they turned around and sold their buildings to 10 lawyers. And so I couldn't know the name of the 10 lawyers. They put it under one lawyer's name. Now, with this...
Hey, Dale, I don't want to interrupt you, but we've got like a 4-hour meeting ahead of us.
I know. What I'm asking for is this law. It's one little law that they didn't change for this town, but they did change it for Burlington, and I would like this town to follow suit on that. That they can't just vacate you. I was the only one vacated out of that building when it was transferred into those lawyers' names. So you know it was pinpointed towards me. I just want to take care of it, or I'll be here every week and open up every landlord in town that does stuff like that.
Thank you, Dale. Is there anyone else in the public who wants to make a comment on something that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, thank you. We're going to start tonight with a special presentation. We have members, representatives of the Vermont Agency of Transportation here and Green International, and they're going to talk to us about the Putney Road improvement project, and this has been going on for years upon years upon years. And some people may know about it, some people may not. It's been probably, we were talking about this the other day, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 years since they've been here the last time to give us, when they showed us what the plans were. So they want to come here tonight, or they are here tonight to give us an update on where things are. And we'll get to this towards the end, but they're not looking for our approval for the project because the project is underway. It's more approval of, yes, keep going. But I guess I'm going to leave it up to, I don't know who's going to start, but if everyone, if you want to introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from, and you're also speaking not just to us and to the public, but you're going to be on TV, so.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Upmall. I manage the roadway design section for the Vermont Agency of Transportation. And with me tonight are design consultants, Green International. Their individual introductions will be forthcoming. I've been involved with this project pretty much since its inception. The project has experienced a number of delays and iterative design processes. We are here tonight to make a formal presentation to the Select Board on the current status of the project, which is at an important point. We're really excited about where we are in this project right now. I'm going to give you a brief history, and I want to limit the time as much as possible about the history of the project, and then I want to tell you about a little bit where we're going. And then Eric Atkins, who's the project manager for Green International, is going to give you an overview of where we're at on the project in a little more detail. So we started this project back around 10, 12 years ago, and it was developed in accordance with at that time the recently completed Putney Road Master Plan, which promoted the design of the corridor and a series of 4 consecutive roundabouts replacing the currently signalized intersection designs. We completed that scoping process over the next few years and came up with a final scoping report and a recommendation for that design. At that time, that consultant was hired for the scoping effort only. We brought the project in-house at that point to try to further refine the scoping plan, and ran into a number of challenges, not only due to the sheer magnitude and complexity of the project, but a few site-specific challenges associated with access control to the Hannaford Plaza and the Sand Refuels location. We were going to put the project out under our agency retainer contracts, but again, due to the size of the project, we really couldn't put out a contract this large for that amount of work under the retainer contract. So, not that it's an excuse, but it took another probably year delay to put out what we call a request for proposal and allow all the regional design consultants a crack at putting a proposal together to secure the design services for this project. We put the report out. It was looked at by 6 or 7, perhaps 8 consultants. I don't remember exactly how many. And as a result, we reviewed those proposals and selected Green International to advance this project forward. And so Green's here tonight. Green International at that point retained the services of a nationally renowned roundabout expert to assist in the evaluation of the roundabout designs, and reviewed that, put a concerted effort on possible modifications to the access challenges that we had, and over the last 6 to 9 months has put together what we call at the agency a revised conceptual design. We're really excited we're excited to be here tonight. I want to thank the Select Board for inviting us to come. We're ready to move forward with the project, but we wanted to make sure that because of the delays that we've incurred over the last 4 or 5 years and the iterations of the project, that the Select Board was still on board with the direction of the project. I certainly, as the leader of the agency's roadway design section and my management staff, will feel much more comfortable now knowing moving this project forward with the support of the town and the Select Board. So like I said, we're very excited about where we are on this project right now. Eric's going to show us what they've developed here, and our plan is to move forward from this point with an aggressive, accelerated schedule. I don't want to bog you down with the details of that, but within a year to a year and a quarter from now, I would like to see the fully engineered preliminary plans for the project developed at that point, at which time we'll have to move forward with the environmental permitting process of the project. This project will require Act 250. And then once the environmental permitting is completed, we'll be moving forward with the right-of-way acquisitions, appraisals. That will be a daunting task. And then once that's completed, move forward with the construction of the project. So again, I'll repeat, I personally have a lot of time and effort invested in this project, but I'm really happy with where we are at right now. And we've got a great design team leading this project. I think you'll see that tonight through Eric's presentation. And I'm really looking forward to moving this project forward and accelerating the development of this project and without any further delay. So with that, I'll pass this on to Eric.
I want to say one thing before, and I should have said this in the beginning. Putney Road or Route 5 is a state road. So this is a state building project. It's not a town project. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. And there's not state money being spent on this. I mean, not state money, not town money being spent on this. It's a state road project with state resources.
Yes, state-owned highway.
Yeah, and I should have said that in the beginning. So it's when they say that they are invested, they're the ones that are truly invested. The state
Thank
is.
you. So Green's got some great stuff here tonight. I know we're under time frame. The select board's got some stuff to do, but we'll try to make this as quick as possible. And we will entertain some questions when Eric's done. But with that, I'll pass it on to Eric.
Thank you, Kenny. Again, my name is Eric Atkins. We're the design consultant retained by the state of Vermont. Green International affiliates. We're a firm out of Westford, Massachusetts. I'm with Jason Sobel, our traffic engineer, Tom Bigelow, our roadway engineer, and Phil Kendall, our transportation department manager. And we'll give the projector a second just to warm up. If I have permission, could I pass these out to the board?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Oh, Kenny, there's not enough for the group here. This could be for the group.
Your first job, Kenny, and you.
Oh, not my first. We've done this before.
Kenny, just a quick question while they're passing that out. What do you think the estimated time for this to be done we're looking at? I mean, I know the acquisition of property is going to.
I'll say that we're going to try to get this engineering done in the next year and a half, and then we'll have to go through the permitting process, which has a number of uncertainties. We'll get through that. Permitting could take a year and a half, potentially, a year and a half. I think the greatest challenge that we face on this project is the right-of-way.
Right.
This corridor has how many properties?
Upwards of 50.
50 some odd properties, but they're all commercial.
Right.
So they will all require formal legal appraisals. We won't be able to use waiver valuations to do that process. And that's very time consuming.
Again, the only reason I ask, because this has been on our radar for a long time. And, people keep saying, oh, when's this thing going to happen? It's like the Hinsdale Bridge, but.
We could build this project if everything went right in 6 to 7 years.
Yep.
And our goal at this point is to move forward as aggressively as possible. We've got the direction set, the engineering will be set, and then we'll enter the environmental and the right-of-way requirements, and which are always the most challenging requirements of any of our projects.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. And I know what I passed out to the board are kind of plans of what I'll cover in a few minutes. Right now, I'd like to just discuss a little bit about some of what we want to talk about tonight. First, Ken did a great job of giving a little bit of a review of the project history and the project overview and the timeline of the project. We'll quickly cover that. We want to discuss some of the project goals as we understand them and as the state has defined them as and as it was defined in the scoping report. Summarize the approved alternative that was approved by the Select Board a number of years ago, and then go in to discuss some of our recommendations, which are what you folks are looking at in front of you, and we'll go over in a little bit more detail. And then quickly discuss some of the next steps, which Kenny also discussed a little bit already. That's interesting. Tommy, you want to restart that, please? Oh. That didn't take long. There we go. Great. Sorry about that. A quick project overview. What you're seeing on the screen is kind of the existing conditions of the project today. I'll discuss a little bit about the project scope and the limits of the project. This is the West River Bridge here. The West River Bridge is here. North is to your right. The existing roundabout is right here at this location. Heifers is right here. We have Technology Drive, Landmark Hill Road, Black Mountain Road is here. Town Criers at this location here as a general overview of the scope of the project. The roadway is currently, I think, a 40-mile-an-hour roadway. It's an urban minor arterial roadway, which is important for us as engineers to determine some of the design requirements we need to meet and satisfy for the project. And the project is about 1.25 miles long. I'll go over this quickly. I know Kenny already covered this in quite a bit of detail. As Ken mentioned early in the design, about 10 to 12 years ago, VTrans conducted some extensive public outreach to understand the purpose and the need of the project. In the winter of 2006-07, a scoping report was prepared and submitted and was approved. There was an preferred alternative, I think it was number 4, which was approved and endorsed by the Windham Regional Commission, the Brattleboro Traffic Safety Commission, and also the Brattleboro Select Board. A final scoping study was prepared and submitted in 2008, which documented that process and all the public outreach that was performed. VTrans advanced conceptual plans of the project in 2013, and many may remember a 502 public hearing was conducted in this room back in 2013 to discuss the conceptual plans as they stood at that point. And those conceptual plans were consistent with the preferred alternative and the approved alternative in the scoping study. Since that time, as Kenny detailed, VTrans retained Green International affiliates to basically try to kickstart the project and also review the conceptual plans, look for any design refinements and enhancements that could be made to meet current design standards, but also to limit the impacts to the abutters and the roadway overall in general. So some of the project goals, one of the important ones is improve safety on the roadway for all roadway users, vehicular users, bicyclists, and pedestrians. Improve traffic operations, provide a complete street. And for those who aren't aware of what that terminology means, a complete street is a roadway that serves the needs of all potential roadway users, including vehicles, including transit, including pedestrians, bicyclists. So that's an important component for this project. We want to maintain and improve the existing bicycle accommodations that exist. We want to provide pedestrian accommodations that really don't exist today. Maintain and improve the current bus access that exists along the roadway. We need to do all these things, but we also need to avoid and minimize impacts to the greatest extent possible within the scope of the project. And we want to do this while trying to improve the aesthetics of the corridor and having something that's more coordinated with the current, most recent Brattleboro Master Plan, which calls for more mixed-use development in the southern section and more retail and commercial development in the northern section of the roadway. So just to quickly recap the approved alternative included 4 two-lane roundabouts. One was at Noah's Lane near the Sandry Fuels intersection. One was at Technology Drive and Landmark Hill Road. One was at Hannaford Plaza, and one was at Black Mountain Road. Each of the roundabouts was a 2-lane roundabout, and for the majority of the section of roadway, it was proposed to be 2 lanes in each direction with a center median island that would be landscaped, which would promote right-in and right-out turning movements for the various driveway axes. That's a critical component of the project and the significant increase in safety that it provides, but it also provides an opportunity to improve the aesthetics along the roadway as well. However, that proposal, that concept plan, also had some significant impacts that came with it, which we'll discuss real quick. I won't go through the entire conceptual plan set, but I do want to highlight the 4 roundabout locations just to quickly summarize some of the items that we looked at and evaluated. This is the Noah's Lane roundabout here. Noah's Lane, Sandry Fuels, the new Sinel Auto Parts, which is right here, which didn't exist when the survey was prepared. We had 2 lanes coming into the roundabout, 2 lanes around the roundabout, and 2 lanes out in both directions. And you'll note there's some significant impacts to Sandry Fuels and their fueling operations. They have existing fuel tanks here, storage tanks that were impacted with this approach, and also a fairly large footprint that affected the tattoo parlor as well. Sidewalks were proposed on both sides of the roadway with a shared use path and pedestrian crossings. The second roundabout as we moved further north is Technology Drive, which is this approach, Landmark Hill, Advanced Auto Parts, US Route 5 is this approach with north to your right. Again, a 2-lane roundabout with 2-lane approaches into and out of the roundabouts in both directions. Again, significant impacts to this private business development here, this I guess retail strip mall here. I believe it's a Verizon Enterprise Rent-A-Car in this location. Significant impacts to the parking here that would really impact the ability of this business that's on this corner of the building to really have a business that can be supported without any parking, a significant loss of parking. So also significant impacts in this quadrant in this location here. As we move further north, this is the Hannaford roundabout. The existing signals are at this intersection here. Hannaford's is in this direction here. North again is to the right, US Route 5. Colonial Inn and Tavern is in this location. Again, a 2-lane roundabout in and around the roundabout, 2 lanes out and 2 lanes in and out on both directions. Significant impacts to the Hannaford parking. I think we estimated approximately 76 parking spaces that would be lost under the conceptual plan. And we were able to look at some options that were able to greatly reduce those impacts as well. Again, sidewalk on both sides of the roadway throughout. The last roundabout is at Black Mountain Road. Black Mountain Road is here, US Route 5 in this direction. We have the North End Market over here, and the Black Mountain Square is in this location. Folks familiar with this location may know where the ATM machine is. The ATM machine in the conceptual plans was going to be within the roundabout, which would have to have been relocated. Again, a 2-lane roundabout, 2-lane approaches on both directions. Significant impacts to the businesses here and obviously the North End Market. And another interesting note is Hardwood Way, a private way here, wasn't really accommodated as part of that design. So we reviewed in great detail the conceptual plans, the history of the scoping study, the meeting minutes from all the scoping process. We had a good understanding of the history of the project and some of the concerns that were voiced during the scoping process. We performed our own additional traffic analysis using updated traffic data that Jason will talk about a little bit. And we prepared a detailed report summarizing our recommendation, which I believe the town had also received a copy. And the plans we passed out to the board are from that report, are excerpted from that report. And the goals of our review were to evaluate the conceptual plans in order to maximize the efficiency of the design. We don't want to over-design anything. Over-designing results in additional costs, additional construction delays, additional maintenance burden, additional right-of-way, additional impacts to businesses. So we wanted to look to maximize that design as much as possible. We wanted to revise the design to make sure it met the current standards and best practices for roundabout design. That's a roundabout design is an approach that's quickly evolving all the time as new studies are performed and new research is done, and also over in Europe as new studies are performed in Europe as well. We wanted to obviously minimize construction costs and the exposure to the state. Also, the biggest thing is we wanted to minimize impacts to the right-of-way, to the operations of businesses, to permitting exposure to the state and the permitting that's required. As Ken mentioned, Act 250 is necessary. We need to show that we've looked at various alternatives to minimize impacts as part of that process, and this was a way of doing that. And obviously impacts during construction to traffic, but just noise and dust and everything else that's involved with a large project. So our recommendations are generally in the southern section between the West River up to the first and second roundabout. We propose a similar cross-section of roadway. This is a cross-section here. The 3-lane section is if you were standing in the roadway, looking north up the roadway, and you were cutting a slice of pie out of the roadway, and you were to see how it would look looking from left to right. Where a sidewalk is proposed on the west side of the roadway, a 5-foot bike lane is proposed, a travel lane, in some cases a center turning lane, and I'll go over some of those locations, another travel lane in the southbound direction, another bike lane, in the northbound direction, a grass strip, and a sidewalk. So that's the typical 3-lane section, which is in general in accordance with what the conceptual plans proposed as well. The biggest departure comes in the northern section of the roadway, where we're proposing a reduced cross-section. Based on our analysis and our observations, we're proposing 1 lane in the southbound direction instead of 2 lanes in the southbound direction, and 2 lanes in the northbound direction, with bike lanes on each side and sidewalks on both the east and west side. And as I mentioned, separated by a landscaped median. We may use that median also for stormwater mitigation as well. As we advance the design, we may find a need for that space, but it'll definitely not be. It'll definitely be a landscaped median and potentially used for stormwater mitigation. So there's a board up on the wall. Some folks may have had a chance to take a look at it. What we show here is just a blow-up version of this board here, an increased version. That's what the board has in front of them as well. Again, this is the West River Bridge, the Marina Restaurant, the Vermont Canoe Center. Spring Tree Road is right here. It comes around this corner here. What we're proposing, one change we're proposing in this location is to add a center turning lane to allow left-turning vehicles to turn left into the Canoe Center or turn left into Spring Tree or the retail establishment of this location. This is a tough location for pedestrians as well. We understand there's a lot of concern about pedestrian crossing at that location. We're proposing a marked crosswalk with rectangular rapid flashing beacons in that location. A sidewalk is proposed along the west side of the road for the entire length. However, in this location, we evaluated potentially providing a sidewalk on the east side. However, due to the significant elevation change between the roadway and the surrounding topography, the inclusion of a sidewalk on the east side of the roadway would have extreme significant impacts to those parcels up on this hill, especially this house, which is in essence almost on top of the road here. So we're not recommending a sidewalk on this side of the road.
Is there a bike lane on that side?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So bike lanes are proposed throughout the entire project on both sides of the road. 5-foot bike lanes are proposed on both the east and west side of the road from the project beginning.
And get it in there by
Yep.
those ledges?
Yes, sir. Yep. So from the southern end of the project all the way to the northern end of the project at Crosby Brook, bike lanes are proposed on each side of the roadway. And access control is an important component of the product. As you folks know, as you travel this corridor, there are many parcels that have wide open access to their parking lots or to their businesses. Those are great in some regards, but in other regards, namely safety for both pedestrians and bicyclists, but also the vehicle, it provides a major concern from a safety perspective where folks don't know where cars are going to be expecting to come from. So access control is a major component of this. And I want to stress what we show tonight is at a very conceptual level. We still have a lot of homework to do. This is one of the first steps in that. We had a meeting last week also with the town to understand some of the concerns. We'll be reaching out with property owners as well as we advance the design to better understand some of the concerns and needs. So these plans will evolve and be refined further as the design progresses. As we proceed further north, Town Crier is right here. The Aubuchon Plaza, Aldi is over in this location here, is further up north. Sanel Auto Parts, Sandry Fuels, Noah Lane. So as we proceed further north and up the hill, again, we have a sidewalk along the east side of the roadway. We have 5-foot bike lanes on each side. We understand there's some development occurring on Town Crier with NECA. There's some other uses on this road that may warrant a left turn lane for that traffic. We've included a left turn lane for that left turning traffic into Town Crier. And we've developed now a sidewalk along the east side of the road, which begins approximately at this location and will extend for the remainder of the project north to Crosby Brook, with a pedestrian crossing again here with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. We will look to see if that sidewalk can be extended a little bit further south to better serve Town Crier as well as we advance the design. And again, access control is an important consideration. This is the first location of where the roundabout was proposed as part of the conceptual plans. And you can see is this dark dashed line here and this yellow dashed line. The dark dashed line represents the approximate footprint of the original conceptual plan. So you can see it was quite large on this side. It had quite a few impacts. It basically bordered the corner of Sanel Auto Parts at this location as well. And what we're proposing now are dedicated left turn lanes in and out. And we're proposing to relocate this roundabout to the Fairfield Plaza. So as we move further north, north again is in this direction here. This is the Fairfield Plaza, Technology Drive, Landmark Hill Drive here. Again, we have one single lane coming into the roundabout and around the roundabout instead of 2 lanes. That allows us to greatly reduce the footprint of the roundabout. It also has other benefits as well. And we have a dedicated left turn lane both sides, and we have the proposed roundabout here at Technology Drive, which is where approximately the conceptual plans had proposed them as well. And you can see with the single lane, the drastic reduction in impacts at this quadrant over here in this location.
Right, as Eric mentioned, we did move the southernmost roundabout from Noah's Lane, which was just off the screen here, up to Fairfield Plaza. The primary reason we did that was, when we were reevaluating the traffic and looking at the traffic volumes, there really was not a lot of volume being served by Noah's Lane and the driveway across the street there. The primary purpose of that roundabout was for vehicles exiting Fairfield Plaza and wanting to head north. With the median design, they would have had to travel south and do a U-turn at the roundabout. So with the roundabout here at Fairfield Plaza, it really serves that traffic directly and serves them better. We did reevaluate the roundabout capacity. That started with some new traffic counts that were collected during the weekday morning peak periods, the weekday afternoon peak periods, as well as the Saturday midday peak periods. And then we worked closely with VTrans to project those traffic volumes out to a design year of 2040. Eric mentioned previously about wanting to take a close look and making sure this is an efficient design and not over-designing this. And so when we evaluated all these roundabouts, we took a look and basically there's a level service. Level service is a qualitative measurement for any intersection or roundabout or roadway facility, basically ranging from level service A, which is very short delays and vehicle queues, down to a level service F, which is obviously much longer delays and queues. And VTrans has a policy for a minimum acceptable level service of a level service C. So we kept that in mind as we were looking at these refinements, and we found that certainly at these two locations, at Fairfield Plaza and Technology Drive, Landmark Hill Drive, single lane roundabouts were sufficient, and we'd expect it to operate at level service C or better during all the peak periods, and certainly even better during the off-peak hours. So with that, in addition, another benefit of single-lane roundabouts, in addition to reducing impacts on surrounding properties and things of that nature, is that when two lanes aren't needed for capacity, single-lane roundabouts could be less confusing for drivers, not sure what lane to be in. It could possibly result in fewer side swipes within the roundabout and fewer crashes there. And it's usually better for pedestrians, as there's a shorter roadway to cross. And speaking of pedestrians, we're proposing crosswalks across all legs of the roundabouts. That's true for these two, and in case I forget to mention it, at the other two farther north as well, crosswalks across all legs. Eric had also mentioned bike lanes, 5-foot bike lanes on both sides of the road. And a key component to this design, and you can see them on all the roundabout approaches and then on the departure sides, are these bike ramps, basically allowing a bike to safely not have to travel through the roundabout. To get up onto the sidewalk, it's a wider sidewalk around the roundabout locations, a multi-use path really. And while some more enthusiastic bikers may choose to stay in the road and travel through the roundabouts as they are free to choose to do that, more casual bikers will easily be able to go around the roundabout safely and conveniently. And the other thing I'll note here is north of Technology Drive and Landmark Hill, you'll notice in this section, this is where the two northbound lanes begin. And we really carry those two northbound lanes from here to the north end of the project. The reason for those two northbound lanes is really not necessarily a capacity reason, but due to the number of driveways on the east side of the road. I mean, we can see just in this one screenshot, 3 or 4. And that will allow through traffic to sort of stay left and not really be inconvenienced by traffic entering and exiting the roadways to and from those driveways.
And we would expect with that second northbound lane too, we may see a reduction of the potential for rear end collisions as someone may want to take a quick right. The through traffic, as Jason mentioned, can stay in the left or they can stay in the right lane as well. But we felt the 2 lanes in the northbound direction from this point forward made good sense from a safety, but also from an overall operation standpoint.
I have a question. What about crosswalks across those driveways between where the sidewalks end? Like this truck apron
here?
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have
So they're not
sidewalks.
there,
Yep,
but
we'll
yeah.
have sidewalks that cross the driveways. Yep.
Will there be a chance for us to
Yeah,
ask questions?
yeah, they're gonna give the presentation, the board will ask questions, and then we'll do public.
So as we proceed further north, this is the Hannaford roundabout location. Hannaford's is here, the Colonial Tavern, True Value Hardware. This is where things got a little interesting for us in terms of mitigating impacts, providing access to all the properties that needed access, and handling the capacity of the vehicles and the traffic that we would expect to see. Again, the conceptual plan footprint is this dark dashed dotted line, and you can see extended all the way up here and was fairly wide. You can see it down here on this eastern side as well. And what we're proposing, as Jason mentioned, was 2 lanes in the northbound direction, 1 lane in the southbound direction. We do develop a right turn lane for Chickering Drive on the next sheet. On the previous sheet, you can see that here, that right turn lane for Chickering Drive. Again, it's a little bit of a hybrid roundabout at this location. It's a single lane in the southbound direction, but 2 lanes in the northbound direction. And Jason will go over a little bit more of this when we show you the simulation for the traffic, how that's going to operate. And again, we have a shared use path to take the bicyclists off the roadway if they choose in both directions. Starts here and comes around. One other important note is a dedicated right turn slip ramp for those folks who want to take a right into Hannaford Plaza. One big change here is that the conceptual plans propose 2 lanes into and 2 lanes out of Hannaford Plaza, which is obviously a very large footprint. Based on our analysis, we feel that only a single lane in each direction is warranted. So we're proposing and recommending a single lane, which helps us to further reduce the footprint of the roundabout as well. And again, we're shortening up the stem here. So I talked about the impacts in the conceptual plans was approximately 76 spaces or so. We believe with this concept, we can reduce the impacts to about 26 spaces. So a reduction of about 50 spots that are lost. And we can look for other opportunities as we work with that property owner and as we refine the design to further improve that. But certainly a major change and a major reduction in the potential impacts to that business as well. And again, on the Colonial Motel side, same thing, a reduction in impacts. Obviously, we need to do a little bit more work at this location here, but we understand how these folks get the deliveries from this side, so we need to accommodate larger vehicles. And we also understand for the Brattleboro Bowl, the bus shelter that's currently located here, we're working with the current to identify some potential locations, but one thought we have is to take that shelter and allow buses to come off and service that shelter here and then come back into the roadway without disrupting the traffic flow on Route 5 and also improving safety as well.
So as Eric mentioned and we've talked about, we have 2 northbound lanes coming into the Hannaford roundabout. A key component of roundabout design and best practices is clear pavement markings and signage. We've got arrows. We'll have pavement marking arrows. Basically, if you're on the inside lane, you'll have the option to go through or to turn left into Hannaford or do a U-turn, but you would not be able to take a right into the motel. Similarly, from the right lane, it would be very clearly marked as a through right. So if you're in the outside lane, you would not be able to take a left turn into Hannaford. And while these pavement markings are showing up on this concept plan, we'll certainly be developing signage to supplement that, to reduce confusion as much as possible and help guide drivers into the correct lane. And one thing I'll talk about now is these truck aprons too. You may have noticed at the 2 southern roundabouts a truck apron just around the center of each roundabout. Here and here, those are these dark red areas. So truck aprons are essentially areas that cars and smaller vehicles would not be driving on, but as larger vehicles, the back of those vehicles need more space to track and make turns safely and without driving over sidewalk areas or landscape areas and things like that. You'll notice it at this roundabout, and you'll see it up again at the Black Mountain roundabout. We also have some truck aprons, these little red slivers on the outsides. And that's really to better accommodate the larger vehicles, as this is a complete street, and certainly there's a big focus on the pedestrians and bikes. But we also need to accommodate large vehicles, the large delivery trucks to Hannaford and fire trucks and other large vehicles to safely and efficiently get through these roundabouts. So that's really what these truck aprons are all about.
On the northern section, you'll again note the dark dashed line, again, the conceptual plan footprint. With the reduction in the lane widths, not the lane widths, but the number of lanes we're providing here, we're able to drastically reduce the impacts to Black Mountain Square. All the parking along their frontage here would have been lost, which would have been a significant impact to them as an overall percentage of the available parking they had on site. And as we proceed further north, this is Crosby Brook here, the northern end of the project. The existing roundabout is off the sheet. And over here, the Black Mountain roundabout, again, is a single lane, kind of a hybrid similar to Hannaford, a single lane in the southbound direction, a 2-lane in the northbound direction. And again, drawing your attention to the dark dash line, the original roundabout was really located right here, kind of centrally located right here. The ATM, for those folks who remember from the previous slide, I noted that ATM machine is right here. So what we were able to do, we've relocated this roundabout, we've shifted it a little bit north, and with the reduction in the size of the roundabout and some other refinements to the approaches to the roundabout, we're able to almost entirely eliminate the impacts to the parking and certainly to the ATM for this business. Additionally, the North End market was almost entirely impacted. Their parking was entirely removed with the conceptual plans, and we're able to eliminate all of those impacts to their parking here. More importantly, almost, is the Hardwood Way that I mentioned in the previous one, which wasn't really accommodated under that previous design. We're realigning this roundabout to make it more of a conventional intersection with Hardwood Way, and we're realigning Black Mountain as a single lane to better align with Hardwood Way to provide better operations and improve safety along this way. And again, sidewalks on both sides, bike lanes on both sides. Sidewalk here is separated with a grass strip on both sides of the road to provide a little bit of a buffer and a green strip, which we feel will be an aesthetic improvement in this section as well.
I want to emphasize just a few things while you're there, Eric, before we get into the simulation. The project, when it was initiated and tried to interface with the Putney Road Master Plan, I remember when I first looked at this project, all the accident data, it's one of our primary concerns was safety. And you saw all these rear end collisions and these side swipe collisions and these opposing side swipe collisions. And really, I think there may be some people out here tonight that ask the question, how do we get into this roundabout design? And I didn't really get to expand on that originally, but this design with the median and the roundabout and the separated northbound, offbound with the median, this footprint is all designed all for safety there. To eliminate those side swipe collisions, to allow exclusive right turn lanes to go right and through lanes on the opposite side, and to eliminate opposing vehicle collisions that were happening. I don't have the traffic data with me tonight, but there were literally dozens and dozens of recorded accidents out there, not to mention the ones that weren't recorded. So, this design really promotes the safety of this corridor. In addition, it greatly enhances pedestrian and bicycle safety and mobility. It's another primary component of this project. And so, in addition to that, the whole landscaping features, Eric doesn't show this on the plan, but as part of the original scoping report, it was envisioned that central median, in addition to likely being potential stormwater treatment, will be similar to the Shelburne Road, where there are trees all the way down that landscape, and the sides of the road will likely have trees. So it will be a very aesthetically pleasing corridor. And that was an important component of the project. And then again, as I referred to earlier, I'm kind of really excited about this project. I'm really happy to have Green International on board, and I'm really excited about all the obvious refinements that they've made to that stamped conceptual plan that we had. That really, I think, as people can understand and appreciate after this, how we've really refined this design and pulled it in and made it a more practical, less intrusive design. And again, I want to add to that and I want to make sure to mention to the public that we are at the now revised conceptual phase of development, going to be moving forward with preliminary plans. Every single abutting property owner is going to be met on this project to talk about their specific access. We still have refinements to make on this job, numerous refinements to make on this job. But tonight we're focused on the footprint, the overall conceptual design, the standard geometry of the roadway. But there will be opportunities throughout, iterative opportunities to have public outreach and public participation in the development of this project. So, I'm really happy about what we've done with this project, what it represents, the safety enhancements, the bicycle enhancements, the pedestrian enhancements, the aesthetic enhancements, and Green International's ability to really somewhat refine this design at this revised conceptual design.
Ken, just one quick, and I may be jumping the gun. I don't know if you even thought about this, but the roundabout at exit 3, are there any improvements going to be done there? Eric, you're smiling. I don't know if that's good or bad.
That roundabout was designed 20 years ago. Was it? Pardon me? 20 years ago. And I'll tell you, that was the first roundabout we designed in Vermont. And I'm not going to stand up and take credit for it here. I actually designed the geometry for that roundabout as one of my first projects with the Agency of Transportation 23 years ago. It was our first whack at it. Right. And, it had issues. It's not part of this project, right. And this project is programmed as such. However, the agency is always willing to look at operations of systems and always looking to improve them.
Because it needs improving. It's just, there's been a lot, I don't know if one of the chiefs there's been a lot of accidents up there. And it's because I think it's the signage more than anything. People don't realize how to use that roundabout.
I don't.
And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in the right lane, that's your first exit. You're supposed to get off. The left lane is for continuing around and then exiting.
I think, as we develop this plan, we can certainly assess the operations of that roundabout. That roundabout will not be incorporated into this project. Right. But certainly we can always look at and assess ways to improve that.
It would help.
Yeah. And with that, I think Green has some simulations they want to do here, and I'll put it back over on them to do that.
Before we move over to the simulations real quick, I just kind of want to put a capstone on kind of some of what I just talked about a little bit. So, you had asked about what's the project schedule. I think everyone wants to know, when is this going to, you guys keep coming to us and telling us this, and okay, we'll believe it when we see it. We understand. Part of the process is to make sure we can get that done as soon as possible, is to minimize the footprint and the impacts from the project. It helps in a numerous amount of ways, both from a pure dollars and cents standpoint, but from a permitting time frame, from a construction duration time frame, from the right-of-way process, which is extremely lengthy. So I think this is a good step in the direction to helping to expedite the advancement of the project through construction into construction that hopefully will pay dividends through the right-of-way process, the permitting process. We can show the exercise that the state has gone through to really help minimize the impacts of the project, which should help quite a bit. Quick footnote, as part of that the whole evaluation, we did a quick estimate of the reduction in pavement area, and it's about a 1.6 acre reduction in overall paving for the project. So from a maintenance standpoint, that's how much less wide a crossing a pedestrian has to make. That's how much less stormwater runoff there'll be. That's how much construction dollars less there'll be to construct it. So there's a lot of improvements here that we hope will bear fruit as we move forward with the design of the project.
And I would add to that, Eric, that this project is unprecedented in Vermont. I think everybody would realize that. And the magnitude and complexity of this project is obvious. And that as frustrated as I've personally been with the delays that we've experienced in bringing this project to this point, again, right now, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with this project. I'm really happy that we've made these refinements. I think we're in a really good place. And I know that communities have expressed frustration with the agency over what we call our legacy projects. And that's kind of be my legacy when I retire soon, is that I've worked on a lot of these legacy projects. And VTrans has been very successful over the last decade in delivering a lot of our large linear highway reconstruction legacy projects. We're reconstructing 3 miles of US 7 right now. It took a long time to develop. We reconstructed Berry City Main Street. Waterbury Main Street is going to be constructed next year. These may not mean anything to the town of Brattleboro, but the agency, we have the we're going to start building the Cabot Danville Contract 2 in 3 months. And so we've got all these large legacy projects that are actually being built right now. And so, I'm not trying to make excuses for why this one isn't doing that right now, but, the agency has really made a concerted effort to bring those projects to construction and is committed to making these projects a reality.
Now, can I?
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, do you think this project is more daunting than Shelburne Road? Or?
That's what I was going to ask.
You
Yeah, I was going to ask, why is this unprecedented? It's just
Yeah.
because it's 4 roundabouts.
Four roundabouts, I think, on Shelburne Road.
Is that what it
Well,
is?
Shelburne Road, sure. Shelburne Road, at that time, I remember when that project was being built, that was unprecedented at the time.
That one was.
Yeah, and but I use that word on this project because there's no corridor in Vermont with 5 roundabouts in sequence. It's and the whole development of the roundabout throughout the roundabouts throughout the United States in the last 12 years is obvious. So again, I'm excited about where we're at. I think the delays that we've experienced, are they worthwhile? Yes, we're at a really good place right now. Now it's time to agree with what we want to do, and now get into the engineering, get the project engineered, and enter the environmental and right-of-way process. And the engineering is not the challenge here. It's always environmental and right-of-way and utility relocation. So with that,
I'll do that. Then
let's look at the.
Sure. Yeah. Before we jump into this traffic simulation, just want to orient everyone. This is very similar to what the plans we've been looking at with north to the east. This is Black Mountain Road, Hannaford, Chickering, Technology Drive, and Landmark Hill Drive, Fairfield Plaza, and then down the West River Bridge and the West River at the southern end. Why don't we start it? This is the 2040 projected volumes, the PM peak hour. We can see from this high-level overview, traffic is beginning to move and moving throughout the corridor. We'll start down at the southern end. Here we are at the West River Bridge and Spring Tree Road here. And
So this would be 4 p.m.?
Really like 5 to 6 or so.
Yep.
In addition to the cars, we've modeled the pedestrians and the bikers. In this section, the sidewalk's just on the west side of the road, although bike lanes on both sides. And that's, we just flew past Town Crier, and here we're approaching People's United Bank. Here's that crosswalk, and from here north, we now have sidewalks on both sides of the project. This is Noah's Lane, where the roundabout was previously proposed and now just a typical unsignalized intersection. And we'll head north now to, this is Fairfield Plaza, Technology Drive, and Landmark Hill Drive. So these are 2 closely spaced roundabouts, and the key here is that where there are delays in queues, they're generally what we call rolling queues, in that you're not stopped at a red light waiting to go. You might be in a queue, but you're moving at 5-10 miles an hour as you're approaching the roundabout. The other key consideration from a traffic perspective here was ensuring that queues from one roundabout didn't back up into the upstream roundabout close by, so that traffic would stay flowing. Now we'll move north to, here we are, this is the Hannaford driveway. And here you can see we've got our 2 northbound lanes. As has been discussed, a key component of this project is the median up and down throughout. So we do see some U-turning traffic from vehicles who either are on the east side and want to head south or the opposite, the southbound to northbound U-turns. I think this car is going to do a U-turn. We watch close.
You've seen this before.
A couple times. Now we'll head north to Black Mountain Road here. This is the North End Market, and this is Black Mountain Square. This is the the ATM rather that Eric's mentioned a couple of times. And you can see it's not being impacted here, and that whole parking lot really can be retained. This is Hardwood Way, that private road now going directly into the roundabout. So overall, we think it's going to operate pretty well.
Take us up to exit 3. I know that.
So, real quick, I mean, as you folks saw, certainly from a pedestrian standpoint too, crossing one lane is a lot better than crossing two. But when we really needed it from a capacity standpoint, we wanted to have 2 lanes. We needed to have 2 lanes, but we wanted to try to avoid that whenever possible. And also for the vehicles, as they're entering and exiting the roundabouts, they're traveling at a much lower rate of speed. So that helps also a lot with the, survivability factor of if a pedestrian is struck by a vehicle. As soon as that speed starts to creep up, the survivability probability drops dramatically. So we want to keep those cars at a low speed as well. So some of the next steps, as Ken mentioned in quite a bit of detail, we presented tonight. We want that the state wants to get concurrence from the town that they're on board with the refinements to the design, so that the state can move as quickly as we can move forward with formalizing the conceptual design and kickstarting some of the permitting process, and then moving to the preliminary design, which really is the benchmark, kind of the starting spot where really everything starts. The right-of-way process starts, the utility relocation process starts, the permitting process starts. It all starts at the end of the preliminary design phase. We want to get to that phase as quick as we can and have a well-engineered set of plans together for that phase. And that's expected to occur next year, as Kenny mentioned, in 2018. And then at that point, the right-of-way process starts, which can be a year or 2 or 3 through the whole evaluation process and the property owner visits. With that, I'd be happy to open up to the board for any questions.
Does anyone on the board have any questions? Yes, Tim.
I have a couple, but I'll leave it to one because
You can ask as many as you want.
No, ask as many.
the 16-foot landscape median. I'm really excited about the trees because I know trees do a lot of great things, but they also slow people down and they look really great. I'm curious why that's so large. Is that something to make the trees viable, or is it because it seems to be giving up a lot of real estate in the whole plan? Because when you think about it, it's like 3 people laying end to end. It's quite a bit of space. Is there a reason that it's not occurring to me?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is a conceptual level. We wanted to start, we'd rather start at 16 feet and maybe pull it in a little bit, as opposed to starting at 8 feet and saying, oh, now we need to go wider. From a landscaping perspective, yes.
That's
the wider
the bench right there. 16 feet is the preferred.
It's preferred from a landscape from maintenance perspective. Doesn't need a whole lot of artificial watering. Trees can survive 16 feet with that 16-foot median. There's enough pervious space there. Certainly, other amendments can be made to the soil and other things can be done to shrink that down if we felt the need to do that. And as we evolve, as Ken mentioned, the design will be refined and it will evolve as we proceed through the preliminary design, through property owner visits. We hear certain concerns from certain property owners that may necessitate a reduction in the width. Then we have that ability to do that at that time. In addition, we want to have that space available for potential stormwater mitigation as well. So obviously the more green space we can provide, the better, for sure. But certainly the impacts overall, even with the 16-foot median, are greatly reduced from the conceptual and scoping study, the approved alternative from this alternative, which should help quite a bit as well.
It's a good judgment to start at 16 feet where we are right now.
Sure.
One thing I would want to avoid in the design of this corridor is too many numerous fluctuations in the typical section based upon one specific issue here and one specific issue here. Certainly, if we find areas that are somewhat linear that require a reduced typical section, we'll certainly entertain that.
Thank you.
As we move through the evolution of this project, it would be, I just want to comment on the record, it would be important to me that any evolution really not have any impact on bike lane or pedestrian walk areas or sidewalk areas. That's really a sticking point for me because it is hard for bikers and pedestrians to get around this town sometimes.
I don't see those being removed from the project.
Do you have any comments, John?
No, I've asked all that.
Yeah. I just have, well, I have a couple, but I'll ask one first. Is there less traffic coming down that road than you originally, I don't know if the word's anticipated, but when you first had these traffic rotaries, there were 2 lanes. So are you able to squish them down to 1 because there's not as much the need for 2 traffic wise?
Yeah, I don't think that's the reason. I think, and Jason could probably explain a little bit more eloquently than I could.
Sure. The traffic volume projections that we're using now are a little lower than the previous projections from the scoping study. But that said, the traffic analysis that was done at all the roundabouts for the scoping study was a very high-level, planning-level analysis. And we're using more detailed analysis tools that basically let us look at it more closely, detailed simulations, so that we're comfortable saying that, yes, a single-lane roundabout is going to function well at these locations.
Now, what time of day, maybe you didn't, was that time of day, that simulation, was it at a specific time of day?
That was the PM peak hour.
And that was the peak?
Yes.
Okay.
So we looked at the traffic data. We looked at the morning peak, the afternoon peak, but we also looked at the weekend peak to see which one was the worst case scenario. That's what we want to model. And in this case, it was the afternoon peak, which I believe was between like roughly 5 and 6, the peak hour period. So, as you can imagine, it's operating fairly well at a level of service C during that peak period. So during the off peak, during the day, it's expected to operate even better. And based on the scoping study roundabout sizing, those were all designed at a level of service A. So extremely, basically all accommodations were provided for the traffic to flow as unrestricted as possible, which is great, which is nice in a perfect world to do that. But we also understand, and VTrans recognizes with their level of service policy, that you really need to consider a few other things that at that planning level weren't really being considered yet, that we had the opportunity and the luxury to now start to evaluate and look at ways we could bring that in and maximize the efficiency of the design a little bit better to better accommodate all the roadway users and limit impacts as well, while still maintaining an acceptable and reasonable level of service for traffic operations.
Is Putney Road right now working at an F?
I don't know, do you
Well,
know
it's pretty,
some of those
it's pretty
intersections?
bad.
Yes, some of those signals are operating pretty poorly.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I meant that kind of.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact level of service,
Right,
but
but
they don't.
it can get really backed up
Sure.
there, just
I'm
because
not
of
sure
the way it operates right now.
I'm not sure what the most recent accident date is, but I think that's the thing that really stood out is more than mobility, it's safety.
Right.
And the
A lot of rear
and the
ends.
recurring accidents out there.
It's a nice design.
I did not like, I said this before, I did not like the double lane rotaries, so, because I thought they were too big. I didn't think that it was in character with that part. I thought it was gonna change the entire, what that road was supposed to be, so I'm glad they're smaller. That's my personal opinion on the rotaries.
Did you want to open it up?
Oh, yeah. Does anyone else on the board have anything?
Okay, good.
Does anyone in the public want to make a comment? Yes, please come up to the mic and just tell the world who you are.
Thank you for this presentation tonight. I'm Ann Latchis, and I have actually 4 questions. Is this working?
Oh, yeah, but it's
for the
just for the
television.
TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask all 4 because I think you can answer them very briefly. I'm not looking for long answers. Fairfield Plaza entry, the first rotary. I saw 2 side crossways, and I'm thinking that all these crossways are more dangerous. It seems like there were way too many. If someone's walking that length, they're going to be on the side of the street that they need to be on. So the 2 between the rotaries, that seemed excessive, and I just thought that I mean, I'm no engineer, but that was like, why wouldn't someone just cross?
We had a long
where they
debate
need
about
to?
those two
That's like,
crosswalks.
and then I'm wondering about lighting for crosswalks, and your simulation didn't show anybody crossing and any cars stopping, so that made me wonder. And is there a system where if someone's crossing at night that they can push a button that would put a light on so cars would know to stop? Dark, rainy nights on Putney Road coming down there, you just do not see pedestrians, even if there were sidewalks. So walk lighting, the speed limit, what's the speed limit going to be? It's 40 now, obviously it'll be a lot slower. And then is that really one of those suicide turns down by the marina entrance, which is a turn I use frequently to go rowing. So it's one of those one single lane for 2 turns, just farther
You want to, yeah.
farther south. Yeah.
My memory is terrible.
There.
So I'll try to hit these
So
one at a time.
those are all my
without
questions.
forgetting.
Thanks.
Can I work backwards? Because my memory works better that way. So Spring Tree Road's a great question. It's a terrible turn. We've seen trucks try to come in and out of there. They have to do it multiple times, pulling into the road, backing up, pulling in. Same thing going into the road. Certainly not safe at the bottom of the hill where you have vehicles coming down the hill at a fairly high rate of speed. Sight distance is a little tricky. This was a really tough nut for us to really crack. We looked at a couple of options of revising the access to Spring Tree Road. We looked at, can we come down here, but the grade separation was just too much for that to work, to make it more of a conventional teed-up intersection. We looked at a couple of options. We ran some what we call turning movements, or the simulations of large vehicles that make turning movements based on federal highway classifications of vehicles. In addition to observations, this actually center turning lane provides a couple of benefits. Not only does it provide a benefit of these left turning vehicles to safely pull out of the main flow of traffic to make the lefts in and out of these locations. The other benefit is it in effect widens the road at that location. So a truck pulling out can now utilize this space. If he's coming in and wants to turn right, he can actually utilize this space and encroach into what won't be oncoming traffic to make that right turn safely, as opposed to today where they have to take this and they swing out wide into oncoming traffic to make that right turn. Without significant changes to this area with removing buildings and all sorts of other things, there are not a whole lot of options we have here. Again, this is still at the conceptual level, so it's certainly something we're going to be looking at further as we advance the design. You had asked further about the crosswalks. This is something we talked about internally. We struggled with this one quite a bit, actually. This is something we're on the fence about as well, and something that's still being evaluated as we move forward. So these may or may not stay both here. We definitely have plenty of opportunities for folks to cross the road, for sure. So we're looking into that, and we're still evaluating some of the best options for those. As far as lighting along the project, I did not mention it, but I think today there's street lighting along the roadway, I think for the most part. Street lighting will also be a component of the design of the project. The actual layout of that lighting hasn't been determined yet, but in addition, there will be not only vehicular lighting at the roundabouts. From a safety perspective, that's the recommended guidance, is to provide lighting at the approaches to the roundabouts, which will also light up the crossings as well. There'll also be in select locations pedestrian level lighting as well for that. As far as the actual beacons, the flash, that's also something we're looking at, the appropriateness of having those at every crossing. We're looking at those too, and that'll be a component that we're going to be evaluating as part of the design. The speed limit. Yeah, so the speed limit is 40 miles an hour, as you noted already. This project does not propose to change that speed limit. However, we would expect that vehicles will be traveling at a slower rate of speed, given the reduced roadway section and also the roundabouts that will act as traffic calming measures as well.
Does anyone else in the public? Sure, Dan, come on up.
I ride my bike on Putney Road sometimes, and the cars kind of want to take over the bike paths, and they want to run in them to pass the other cars. And a few times, people will ride up right behind me all the way. But what do you have? Are you going to leave those bike paths without some kind of buffer between the car? They're just going to be strips?
like a physical, will there be a physical barrier there between the bikes and the traffic? No. Other than what's being proposed at the roundabouts, will we allow the bicyclists to leave the roadway onto the shared use path?
Vehicles should not be utilizing a 5-foot bike lane to circumvent a vehicle in front of them.
No. Well, I love your plan, and I know it's gonna save us a lot of problems. But really, you need to look at the one at exit 3.
One thing that might need to be emphasized here with these roundabouts, the bicyclists are accommodated at these more heavily congested roundabout, more confusing areas that is a shared use path.
Right.
So when they're getting off the road with their
10
that's
feet.
10 feet. That's a 10-foot shared use path. So the bicyclists wouldn't be navigating the roundabout areas within the road
Unless they
chose.
some of the more experienced bicyclists prefer that, but we also want to provide for the less experienced bicyclists
And
too.
what is the width of the bike lane within the roadway section?
5 feet.
It's still 5 feet.
I'll also add that a lot of times when drivers kind of swing right into the bike lane, it's to avoid a car that's turning left into a driveway, and that would be eliminated. That motivation would be eliminated with this median. No one would be turning left, so you're not going to experience any vehicles going right into the bike lane to get around someone waiting to turn left.
And in the areas where we don't have the median, we've provided left turn lanes for those folks as well.
Thank you. Great ideas.
Okay. My name is Ada Ellis, and I'm a resident of Brattleboro. And I'm not an engineer or anything like that, and I was really impressed with the amount of, I am an academic, and the amount of research that you obviously did with this presentation is very impressive.
Thank you.
I have a very sophomoric type question, and you probably could answer it with one word, but they impressed me with KISS when I was in school. That means keeping it simple, very, very simple. And I'm just overwhelmed with these, not 21st, 22nd century roundabouts. They bowl me over, and you're far ahead of me with that kind of research and thinking and safety and whatnot. But keeping it very simple, I wonder what would happen if you improved the lighting in those areas. What would happen if you did not have the roundabouts and you improved the lighting and the other kinds of things that might be necessary to make this even safer than you said? It was super safety. That was one question. The other question I had was, at one point you talked about the pedestrian walkways would be discontinued. And I wondered what happened to those pedestrians. They were left out there somewhere, and there was no more roadway for them. Am I being clear? Sort of a kind of a clear.
The pedestrians, so we're providing sidewalks.
Yeah, but the first question is what's over.
Let me try to address that one and see if I can understand that question clearly.
Yes.
So are you asking, were there other design roadway facility measures or features, roadway features that could have addressed this safety besides the roundabout construction?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to make this simple. So again, one of the primary safety problems out there was numerous opposing traffic conflicts. What I would call, I don't know if this is appropriate, a sea of pavement across there. So for pedestrians, no crosswalks, 60 feet of pavement in some places, maybe more. No, lighting, I don't think lighting would have addressed lighting or.
I meant traffic lights.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So during the scoping process.
Wrong vernacular.
Yeah.
Traffic lights.
During the scoping
That's right.
process,
I meant to say traffic lights.
during the scoping process, a number of different alternatives were evaluated. A number of the alternatives included signalized intersections along this corridor. And through the scoping process and the feedback from the town and the communication and the coordination with the town, the signals really didn't fit the purpose and need and what the town was looking for, and the roundabouts did. The roundabouts did address a number of the concerns. But yes, to answer your question, a number of other alternatives were evaluated throughout the scoping process.
Other than the roundabout.
Correct. So traffic signals.
22nd century
Yep.
technology, right?
Yep. And I think you had a question. What was the other question about the pedestrian?
So pedestrian, I, at one point, in I forget what was the presentation, the words were, the sidewalks were eliminated beyond this point, and I was left on the walkway, walking along, because there was no more sidewalk.
We wouldn't do that.
We're talking about West River Bridge.
Yeah, I'm a walker.
Yep.
And I walk every single day, and I was walking along the highway that you were describing with your point. But then you said, and the sidewalks are discontinued, and there I am, standing on the hill.
So I think you're right. We did say that the sidewalk along the east side. So we have sidewalk on the west side of the roadway, the entire length of the project. On the east side of the roadway, do you know where People's United Bank is right now? Where People's United Bank is near, where the Sandry gas station is, south of the Sandry gas station? At that location, from there south down to the West River, we've looked at some options to providing a sidewalk in that segment of the roadway. However, due to the drastic elevation change that occurs between the roadway and the parcels that abut the road.
Yes, that point.
Yes, so.
I'm left there.
Well,
On the west side.
Yes.
in a sense.
How will I get?
Where do you want us? Do you want to start in Brattleboro? We'll work our way up. So if you're in Brattleboro and you're walking across the bridge, is there sidewalk on the east side of the bridge?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
West side.
On the west side. So right now there's no sidewalk on the east side of the bridge.
Okay.
There is a sidewalk on the west side of the bridge. So you're on the west side of the bridge, walking up the road. You'll be able to walk the entire length of the project if you'd like,
Stay on that side.
on the west side of the road. However,
Stay on that side.
Okay.
there is no sidewalk on the east side of the bridge, so there was not a real need to bring a sidewalk to that point, because it would be a sidewalk to nowhere on the bridge, which isn't, from a safety perspective, the best idea. We do, however, up near People's United Bank, we do start to develop a sidewalk on the east side of the road. And then from that point north to the end of the project, we have sidewalk on both sides. And what we do provide for you is a way to cross the road at that location at a crosswalk. And that's what you see on the screen here, is we do have a crosswalk at that location which will allow you to safely cross the road, to utilize either one of the sidewalks on the east or west side of the road. We are evaluating the potential to potentially extend the sidewalk further south down to Town Crier, to see if we can better serve the need for Town Crier. But between Town Crier and the West River Bridge, there are no other facilities that would need a sidewalk, and the sidewalk wouldn't go to anywhere on the bridge. So at that point, we didn't feel the impacts warranted the use of a sidewalk on that section of road. But we do provide full connectivity between the sidewalks on both sides.
Thank you.
Does anyone else in the public have any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
To me, there's a fatal flaw in our discussion in that we have, in terms of traffic flow and safety, we completely been oblivious to what effect, will be a tremendous effect self-driving cars will have.
Can I ask, can you expand on that a little bit?
Sir, that's the problem. We don't know. And you don't know, and I don't know. But it's going to be a big difference. It could speed things up, make things much safer, much more efficient, much more effective. We just don't know. We may not have a problem.
For the existing roadway?
I dare say so.
Okay.
Does anyone else in the,
Could I ask another question?
sure.
To how many businesses will be impinged if we go ahead with this plan, and how many businesses will go out of business?
I'll respond to that.
Thank you.
Yes. With every highway project, of course, there are always impacts. And through the design and development of this project, we always look to minimize impacts and or mitigate those impacts, okay? So we try to create the least amount of impact to each individual abutting property owner. However, in the interest of the transportation and safety of the traveling public, sometimes impacts are necessary to achieve those goals. But we try to minimize those. Also, and the agency is more aware of this than ever, we perform extensive constructability reviews of these projects to assess traffic management and impacts during construction, which oftentimes the greatest impacts are those which we see during the construction of the project. And again, those are inevitable. So we understand and we appreciate each individual abutting property owner or interested party. We certainly will go through that in all our iterative processes from this point forward. Yes, we understand and we appreciate that, but we're developing a project and a design that from an engineering perspective best addresses public safety concerns and mobility.
So that wasn't my question.
Well,
The question is, how many businesses will be impinged by this, and how many of them will be put out of business?
I don't think you can answer.
Numbers.
How could I possibly have a
Well, you see where your lines go.
Well, I think, I don't want to get into a big debate. I think what they explained in the beginning is that they're going to go talk to each business owner and have conversations with each and every one of them.
Yeah, I might just add a few things. Any and all temporary and permanent easements necessary to construct this project will be acquired through the right-of-way process. And any and all easements will be negotiated and compensated as part of the project under the Code of Federal Regulations, all formally appraised and compensated. So, state, we don't intend to put anybody out of business on this project, but do we intend to impact these parcels? I think every single parcel along the corridor will be impacted in some way, shape, or form during the project. But to what degree, I can't really put that in any kind of detail right now.
Yeah. And you have actually already spoken to some of these
Certainly.
business owners all of these years that this has been happening. Does anyone else in the public have any comments or questions? Just quickly, I think I don't know who made the comment about future public participation. Will you come back again when you get another more solid conceptual design, or just so the public knows what's the in public participation?
We'll be providing the town plans for each of the following submittals, and we'll be coordinating with the town throughout the project. Our coordination won't end, and it'll follow right through construction. So we're kind of attached at the hip on this, right? I mean, you called this a state highway earlier. Yes, this is a state highway, but we'll be working together with the town in full partnership to bring this project to completion.
Well, this was very helpful. I mean, so, if a year and a half down the road, you're more than welcome to come back and do this presentation again with a more, solid set of plans or whatever. So as much information as we can put out, and having you here to answer all the questions is incredibly helpful. So,
and then, of course, what I look at, one of the greatest challenges is going to be Act 250.
Yeah.
That's an entire process within itself. So we'll be coordinating with the town and the community throughout.
So tonight, what you would like from us is our continued
Support
Support
for
that
the
you go
project,
forward.
support for the project
Yep.
under the presented revised conceptual plan.
Yep.
I'll make a motion if you
Would you
want.
like to make that motion?
Sure, to express the town of Brattleboro's continued support for the Vermont Agency of Transportation's Putney Road Reconstruction Project.
We have a motion to express the town of Brattleboro's continued support for the Vermont Agency of Transportation's Putney Road Construction Project. All those in favor of that motion? Say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries 5-0. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate it.
Excellent work.
I would entertain a motion for us to convene as liquor commissioners.
So moved.
We have a motion to convene as liquor commissioners. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We are liquor commissioners. And our first order of business is going to be the special events permit for Strolling of the Heifers, the Friday Street Festival. I'm going to note here that there are 7 I don't know, let's see, breweries, providers, yep, yes. 7 pourers or whatever, on our list. There's going to be an 8th that I think, I don't know if Ann's gonna talk to us about this. There's going to be an 8th, but the paperwork was not completed in time for tonight's meeting, so they'll come to us in 2 weeks or at our whatever next meeting. So Ann, I'm assuming you're coming to talk to? Yeah.
They may find it recorded.
If you could introduce yourself and tell us what you're here for.
Hello, I'm Ann Latches. I'm the general manager at Strolling of the Heifers. And we are planning our Friday Street Festival, and we have secured vendors for an indoor sampling. And my understanding is the license will also allow them to sell full closed bottles to consumers under the state license that they hold. But there will be just sampling for it. It's not going to be like a bar pouring drinks in that sense. So I had 8 to begin with. 1 dropped out, and another one just jumped on, a distiller in Bennington. And I understand based on the process, they are called Spirits of Old Bennington. And they're a very small operation. They have a hydroelectric power that they're generating. They just started up about a year ago, and they're very eager to come over here and sample their, I think, gin and vodka. But so I'd like to first ask that I can come back in 2 weeks and present that.
Yes.
Their paperwork is here, I have it,
Yes.
but I understand there's a process you have to go through. And I think they're new enough that they haven't caused any problems in the state. But anyway, with the other 7, just to let you know, there's a Meadery, a couple ciders.
Do you want to tell us who they are or tell the public?
I don't
who they
have the
are?
list in
Oh.
front of me.
We've
Groennfell
got it.
Meadery, Home Hall Cider Company up from Swanton, I think.
Yeah.
I'm
We
gonna
have Caledonia Spirits.
Caledonia Spirits.
14th Star Brewing.
14th Star Brewery,
Company.
which is in St. Albans.
Yeah. Is it Groennfell Meadery?
Groennfell Meadery.
Hall Home Place.
They're also up north.
Matt and Harry's Hard Cider.
I think they're Saxon's River.
Stonecutter Spirits.
Right.
And Vermont Distillers.
And Vermont Distillers, which is more local. Yeah. So we have some distilleries, meaderies, and I think we only have 1 brewery.
Yeah,
on there.
14th Star Brewery.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is for Friday.
For Friday night,
evening.
approximately 5:30. I think the permit said 5:30 till 9.
8:30.
Everything will be closed up 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
They'll be out of there.
And it's all in the River Garden.
It's in the river garden. We have the area roped off, and you have to get into that section.
And you're checking IDs and everything
Yes,
like that?
yeah.
Is there anything we need to know?
Just from staff's perspective, the plan is to do this in the same manner that it's been done successfully these last few years. So we have vetted all the paperwork for the 7 that are before you this evening and are happy to recommend approval. And we will look at the materials from the Bennington distiller and be ready to make a recommendation to you 2 weeks from tonight on that one.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Anyone in the public have any questions or comments about the liquor license? All right, does someone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve special event permits for the Strolling of the Heifers Friday night street festival inside of the River Garden located at 157 Main Street from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. for the following vendors: Caledonia Spirits, 14th Star Brewing, Groennfell, Meadery, Home Place, Matt and Harry's Hard Cider, Stonecutter Spirits, Vermont Distillers.
All right, we have a motion to approve a special events permit for the Strolling of the Heifers Friday Night Street Festival inside the River Garden from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. for the following vendors: Caledonian Spirits, 14th Star Brewing Company, Groennfell Meadery, Home Place LLC, Matt and Harry's Hard Cider, Stonecutter Spirits, and Vermont Distillers. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries 5-0.
Great, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have a second-class liquor license for GR414 Inc., located on 414 Canal Street, which is formerly the Gulf gas station on Canal Street. And is there anybody here for that, or are we? Oh, sure, please come on up. It's easy. And you are here because you've just recently purchased the business?
Yes.
Is that correct? Great. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
My name is Satyendra Singh, and we just bought the Gulf gas station on the Canal Street, and we just want to open the liquor store and cigarette license. We are applying for it.
Mm-hmm.
The business was already there, but because of the new ownership, we have to apply for the license.
Yep.
And I have with my manager Brenda, who's there for I don't know how many years. And I want to show the city we are just keeping all the staff,
Yeah.
same payroll. And if you guys will give me the permission, it's like more than 10 to 15,000 payroll per month, and 16 employees will be getting the benefits. And we are not firing anybody. We are not reduce anybody's wage. Brenda is approved for that. And because of the opportunity came, the previous company was bought up by PMG Group. It's a petroleum and management group which distributes the Gulf. And they had the store for the sales. So because of business, we bought that. It didn't mean like we acquire or something like that, because the small company was bought up by the big company, petroleum management group. They didn't want to keep the stores. So they put these stores in the market. So one of them, as the opportunity came to us. And I have already experienced in this field for 20 years.
Now, are you still called, this is,
It's still called Canal Street Gulf.
okay.
We are not
So it's-
changing name, we're not doing nothing.
Okay.
Same operations, everything like that.
Okay, so when it says formerly the Canal Street.
Yeah, it will remain.
Okay.
It's a GR41 Corp,
Yeah.
but doing business as Canal Street Gulf.
Okay. That makes it less confusing for people like me. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Or first I'll ask the town manager, is everything in order?
Everything is in order. It's been reviewed by the police department and the fire department, and we all recommend approval.
Good. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
No.
Does anyone in the public have any, Dale?
You're still gonna have the car wash, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the main business, and maybe you'll see more improvements there and more discounts.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? All right, I think we are ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a second-class liquor license for GR414 Inc., located at 414 Canal Street.
We have a motion to approve a second-class liquor license for GR414 Inc., located at 414 Canal Street. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries 5-0. Congratulations.
I'm very thankful to the city of Brattleboro for approving this.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Look forward to working
Good luck.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It is time for our regular update on the police fire facilities project.
It is, and because there's nothing before you for approval for this project this evening, and because I have not approved any additional expenses in the past 2 weeks, I'm happy, given the hour, to simply report that construction is continuing well at both the police station location and the central fire station location.
Does anybody on the board have any questions? No. Comments? Does anyone in the public have any comments or questions about the police fire facilities?
Chiefs, everything's are good? That's good. Good to hear.
Good.
Got thumbs up from both of them.
All right.
Chris, is it still noisy over there, or has things calmed down a little bit?
He doesn't ever go in.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's not too noisy.
Great.
Nothing worse than when we were in the other space.
Good. Yeah, the press is being interrogated. All right, great. Now we're going to move on. We have the rules of conduct for meetings and hearings. And we waited because we had John and David were not at the last meeting. We decided to not approve this until you folks were back. And as you'll all remember, this started, I guess, April 25th. Is that when it started? Or before that? It actually started way before April 25th. That we looked at the rules of conduct that every year the select board adopts. So we had the standard rules that we had been using in the years past, and there were a couple of changes that were made. The first of which is on page 1. Under A, conduct of regular special meetings of the select board, down under number 5. I don't know if anyone's following where I am. It says added is the chair is discouraged from making motions, instead is tasked with guiding the tempo and tone of the meetings. The chair is, however, encouraged to suggest motions when it feels necessary to move the meeting forward. That's the first addition. Then you go on number 9. The addition after Robert's Rules of Order, it says specifically and in quotes, informal procedure for small boards. And the only other changes are to the names of the select board members on the final page, and then obviously the date that the rules of conduct and meetings were adopted. I don't know if anybody on the board has any comments or questions about those changes that we had talked about. John?
Well, the chair is discouraged. Does that mean that you cannot make a motion, or you're just discouraged from making a motion? I'm trying to clear it, because I was not in favor of this. So I think the chair is one of us and should be able to make a motion if need be. So
I think, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I think really what this does is put into writing a method that is already in use and has been in use for quite a few years with David before you. And indeed, the way you've run the first few meetings, Kate. So that's sort of the sort of compromise. We had a whole discussion about, chairs not being able to make motions, and so this language kind of codifies what's actually going on, in my opinion. And again, the purpose is not to put the chair at a disadvantage or at a lower level to everyone else, but it recognizes that the chair has the power to move a meeting in certain directions. And so in deference to that power, the chair is discouraged from making motions first.
Again, I've been on the board for a long time, and rarely has the chair abused that I don't even want to call it power, that right. and I don't want to belabor this, it's, it's 8:20, and but I just want to make it that the chair is still able to make a motion if they so choose.
Of course.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that it's not illegal, or that it's not against our Robert's Rules of Orders for small groups to be able to make a motion. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. That and again, it's just my opinion. So, and I don't know if it doesn't need to be discussed anymore. I just wanted to make it clear that.
Does anyone else have anything?
No, I think we're all reading it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it either. I have the same. I agree. Believe it or not, John, I agree with you.
Wait a minute.
Do you want a pen? That's a highlight.
No, I got to write this down. It doesn't happen that often.
I agree with everything John just said.
8:21. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that. Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments about our rules of conduct? Or it's rules how we conduct meetings, not our personal conduct.
That.
Because that could be discussed.
That would be awful. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the modified rules for conduct of meetings and hearings as presented.
We have a motion to approve the modified rules for conduct of meetings and hearings as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0.
I'm a team player. David, I think we're supposed to make all the motions this week because these two.
Oh, she told you.
Yeah. They
And
worked
you
hard.
guys weren't here.
They worked hard last meeting.
It's okay.
So,
I'll try to ping pong.
Stay away. Now, at the last meeting, we waited for you and David and John to be here to discuss the July meeting schedule.
Come, as long as you waited, we still.
We waited. And there was a recommendation, our meetings would be July 4th and July 18th, and we didn't think anyone wanted to meet on July 4th. So, and we also thought that because it's the summer, perhaps we can just do one meeting in July. And we've never done that before, but we feel confident this year.
So moved.
Yes, this year.
I didn't even type it in.
No, we don't even need a motion.
So we were
It's in
thinking
my calendar.
July 8th.
Yeah.
So July 11th work for everybody?
Yeah.
Do we have to make a motion for that, or can we just say it?
According to our rules for small boards, we can, if
Just
it's
say
obvious to everybody, you can just.
Just say it? I mean, there's no
Okay.
rule that we need. So we're going to have one meeting in July, and that's going to be Tuesday, July 11th.
Yay.
Obviously, if something happens, but nothing's going to happen.
I may miss that one.
Okay, now we're going to move on to new business, and it's the Charter for Compassion. And if people remember, this is one of the issues that was on the town meeting ballot. And the town overwhelmingly voted to advise the select board to sign on to what they're called the resolution, what is it called? The Compassionate Cities Charter. And our town manager has been working with the group of people that brought this forward to the town. And we have a draft of a resolution that we're going to read. And hopefully I'll vote on this evening. And I guess I'll let Peter talk about how we got to where we are now.
Thank you. So I'd like to acknowledge right off that Jim and Dora Levinson are here, and others who are involved with the community-based effort around the Charter for Compassion here in Brattleboro. And I want to give just a quick summary of our interaction and what's before you tonight as a board for your consideration, but then would welcome the others being introduced and anything that you'd like to add regarding this collaborative effort. So we have met, as you pointed out, the voters overwhelmingly by 83% to 17% said yes to wanting Brattleboro to be a compassionate community, and that was with a capital C and a capital C, based on a part of the Charter for Compassion international movement that identifies a particular sort of program or set of activities that's involved with being designated as a compassionate city. We had some initial conversation around this several weeks ago here at the Select Board, where I expressed a concern that my first look at that website and what would be required there looked like it might be a very significant investment of time and potentially money as well, to follow all of the formal structure that's laid out for compassionate cities on that website. But that it seemed to me that it is among the lightest lifts imaginable, among the easiest things for us to do, to commit ourselves to treating each person who comes before us with respect and making decisions with full and fair consideration for the impacts to everyone in our community, even the less well represented or the less well off. And you readily agreed with that, and we agreed that what we should do going forward is I should find out more about the program and discuss with the local organizers of this how the town might fit into this effort and where we might go from here. So what's before you in the resolution is exactly what I just described. It's a formal statement by the Select Board committing that we do the business of the town of Brattleboro in a manner that is consistent with the Charter for Compassion. And I had the wording that's in there comes directly from a meeting that I had with Jim and Dora Levinson about the way in which we could make a proper, strong, clear statement about how we intend to conduct ourselves, how hopefully we've been conducting ourselves, at least for the most part, but now with a little more mindful purpose would do this going forward. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm going to describe what I heard in the discussion. If you were to approve this and if we go forward in the manner that I'm describing this evening, our formal town government engagement in this would actually be running pretty parallel to how the community grassroots part of this is going, where similarly they made a decision that this is really important about how we treat each other and how we think about community and the work that we do together in Brattleboro, and how we think about what we're doing in Brattleboro that affects people outside of Brattleboro. So they're thinking about this in the same way about the importance of the principles that are involved without necessarily following a formal structure as it's set out on the international website. And so there's a group of people that have been meeting around that. I've committed to the Levinsons that I'm going to attend that next meeting that they have on this. And we'll go from there to see whether or not my continued participation in their meetings is appropriate and useful and helpful. And likewise, they're planning on keeping an eye on what we're doing and making sure that they remind us when we need to be reminded about the importance of doing all of our public business in a compassionate manner. So I've said plenty, I think, and actually gone farther into expressing your desires than I meant to. So would you please speak to us about the community effort that's underway?
Yeah.
And you should come to the mic so you can be heard on the television, please.
And introduce yourselves for the people that are watching on TV.
Sure, I'm Jim Levinson, and daughter Dora and I had met with Peter. We are from the Brattleboro Area Interfaith Initiative, which has been going on for almost 15 years now. Almost 15 years. And we have, is there anybody from Vermont Insight Meditation? This organization, Vermont Insight Meditation, came up with the idea at the very beginning, very first people to come up with this idea. Within our organization, the pioneers were Dee and Bob Keller, who are have a wonderful history of compassion themselves in work that they've done in Turkey and elsewhere. This is daughter Dora. This is Avis Ellis, who is a newer member and a very committed member of our Brattleboro initiative. We have over here Jerry Levy and Steve Minkin, also part of our group, and Dalit, whether she knows it or not, is part of our group. And this young woman who spoke so passionately before, whether she knows it, is part of our group. So we are delighted that this is happening. We're delighted that Peter has been such a good partner in moving this forward, and we are really full of energy to try to do everything we can on these two threads, both helping people in our town facing challenges, and as a town helping others wherever they are in need. And that's what this resolution is about.
Maybe what I'll do, since we're talking about it, is I'll read the resolution, and then we can talk about it some more. Whereas an international charter for compassion was created in 2009, and whereas, among other things, the Charter of Compassion affirms the sanctity of every single human being, calls upon all people to treat each other with absolute justice, equity, and respect, and states that we urgently need to make compassion a clear, luminous, and dynamic force in our polarized world. And whereas the Brattleboro Interfaith Initiative is organizing local action that is consistent with a Charter for Compassion and has urged the town government to join in these efforts. And whereas on March 7th, 2017, Brattleboro voters overwhelmingly approved, by 83% in favor, the following town meeting article. Shall the town of Brattleboro vote to advise the Select Board to become a compassionate city as articulated in the Charter of Compassion? And whereas the Brattleboro Select Board desires to join the local compassion movement, now therefore the Brattleboro Select Board hereby resolves and proclaims that the town of Brattleboro is committed to the principles expressed in the Charter for Compassion, supports the collaboration of local individuals and organizations to promote those principles through a variety of public and private actions in our community, will remain mindful of the impacts of our actions not only in Brattleboro, but upon people and places beyond our borders, and invites all people to observe and participate in town government and to hold town government officials accountable for conducting our local public business in a manner that is consistent with this resolution. Dated this second day of May, 2017. And if we approve it, we will all sign it. So that's what the resolution says. And I don't know if anybody on the select board has any.
No, what's a little bit sad about this, and it's not sad, is that we have to have a resolution to be compassionate. That just kind of blows my mind a little bit. But if that's what we have to do to.
But it's also a network. It's a wonderful network of cities, towns, states, even some countries all over the world, and that's quite empowering.
Yeah.
50 countries have signed on.
That's fantastic.
400 other communities in 50 different countries.
Yep.
Right. Does anybody else?
We're part of a big network.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any comments or questions in the public? Anyone on the? Oh, yes, sir. Please come up to the. Oh, yeah. Come. You have to come up to the mic because they can't hear you if you don't. And if you can tell us who you are, that would be helpful too.
It's not.
Yeah, I have a question.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Dalit.
Thank you.
I just a question for that. If they can explain how things are going to be different, or what is really. I mean, in practice, I'm just wondering in practice how things are going to be different, or what actually you're going to do. If you can kind of Give some idea.
You mean how we can improve?
My name's Dora Levinson, and so my understanding of this is that this is the town of Brattleboro publicly making a commitment to acting in a compassionate way, and that maybe there won't be a difference in the outcome, but that the process is different, and even if there's it's being noted, the minutes are being taken down that this action has been taken. And so maybe the outcome won't be any different, but saying that maybe the motivation will be different, and maybe if there is in 5 years an action that maybe some people aren't quite sure is coming from a compassionate place, then we can go back to these minutes and we can say, hey, there was a resolution that was passed, so let's look at this again. I think that is a way that it might look different.
Can you give us a few examples of sorts of things that we consider?
Thanks, Dad.
That's coming from your dad. Okay,
So one of the things that we talked about in our meeting with Peter, some town initiatives. We talked a little bit about that was very. Topically appropriate was about the sidewalks, especially for the new NECA site, and how maybe that can be a way of the town acting in a compassionate way, or increasing diversity in town staff, which I think is also an agenda item. So I think that these are things that are already being done. There are other things in the larger community outside of the town officially that are being done already. There are a lot of organizations doing a lot of work in a compassionate way. From a compassionate place. Our committee is trying to pull some of those together and figure out how best we're working to figure out what we want to do to move forward. We don't need another organization. We don't need
another committee.
But whether there are. We're trying to figure it out, and I'm not prepared at this point to talk about what that might mean down the road. But we will keep, hopefully we'll keep you posted.
Great. Please do keep us posted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Peter.
Oh, did you have some? I'm sorry.
Oh,
okay. I just wanted to add to that it won't just be a matter of sort of waiting to hear when things are happening. One of the commitments we're making to each other is, clearly it's appropriate that there be some level of separateness between what government officially is doing and what the community is doing. And so we recognize that and respect that, but the Levinsons and I have made a commitment to each other that we're going to be staying in communication, that where there's opportunities to collaborate, we're going to collaborate, and where there's opportunities to just keep each other well informed, we're going to do that. So these two things will be running along parallel paths, but will not be so isolated from each other that we need to, wait for an update some months away. So.
Great. Yes, sir. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
I'm Pete Nickerson, from the South for the last 66 years and 4 years up here. I want to safeguard my own. I want to safeguard my own proclivity here. Is there any discouragement or encouragement for dissent in the charter?
So I'd like to speak to that from a governmental perspective. I haven't memorized the charter. I don't know whether or not dissent is explicitly addressed in it. Dissent is a natural and important part of the work that we do in town government or in any government. And my takeaway from what the charter stands for and what we're committing ourselves to tonight is to be open to hearing contrary opinions and a variety of different opinions and work through processes of decision making in a way that respects everybody who's involved, so that there isn't one right answer and a bunch of wrong answers, but just different perspectives of what might be best for the community, and we work together to arrive at the best outcomes that we can. It's a way of reminding ourselves how to treat each other decently in the process of making public decisions.
Does anyone else in the public have any comments, questions?
Is there any suggestions for us at this point, or are moving forward? Or I'm just wondering if we're doing a halfway decent job, or do we need some do we need some enlightening?
Let me just mention that among the ideas that are being kicked around, is there anybody here from the Reformer or the Commons?
Right there.
There they are.
Both of them.
It could well be. We're in discussion with the Reformer and the Commons to have a compassion story of the month. Applicants, interested people submit, and to save you time, our committee will review all these submissions and we'll make a choice. And then after a year or two, they get put into a nice publication and they get a lot of circulation beyond those that read the newspaper regularly. Also, lots of ideas kicking around of ways to help kids in school that are in trouble. There are 70 families in our area at risk of losing their child to foster care. Supporting those families, lots of ideas kicking around, and we're on it.
Great, thank you so much. We need a motion to approve the resolution for compassion in Brattleboro. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. I move to approve the resolution for compassion in Brattleboro as presented.
We have a motion to approve the resolution for compassion in Brattleboro as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries 5-0. And we'll sign it right now. We'll pass it around. Great, thank you so much for all your hard work on that. Okay. We've got another resolution that we're going to do. This resolution is in recognition of Paul Cameron and his work as energy coordinator. And if everyone remembers who was at town meeting, there was a suggestion that we thank Paul for his work. So we have a resolution. And I don't know, Peter, if you want to talk about how we came to the resolution that we have.
Sure. Mr. Richard Evers is here. He was the one who proposed this at town meeting and drafted the resolution that's before you this evening. Would you like to?
Yeah, come to the mic.
Yeah, please come to the mic and introduce yourself for the viewing public.
I'm Richard Evers. I'm a town meeting representative, and when we were having there was a discussion about appropriating, I think it was $10,000 during the town meeting, a rather lengthy discussion to continue Paul's work. And at the break of the meeting, just to remind you, you all were there up on the stage, and I was down among the town meeting reps. And at the break, or a break after that long discussion, I asked Michael Bosworth, who worked closely with Paul, whom I hadn't met previously, even though he told me we were on a bus together down to a demonstration in Washington, a climate march, or New York, that he knew me from the bus. Anyway, I said to Michael, what's Paul up to? And he's down in North Carolina and helping with his mother. And I said, it would be nice if if we could get a resolution from the town recognizing his work, some of which came up in that discussion of the $10,000 appropriation to continue some of the things that Paul did. And it was in the big booklet that we all got as town meeting reps. Michael wrote that. And so then I introduced that to the moderator and to all of you. And then I asked for the town reps to then and there to see if they supported that idea of a sort of whereas resolution, whereas Paul did this and Paul did that and Paul did this and then I had the good sense to say, let's have a vote on it right now. And it was all very spontaneous, very, very spur of the moment. And the town meeting reps all stood up, looked pretty unanimous, and then so then the next stage was to actually draft that whereas resolution, like you all gave to David Gartenstein, that sort of thing, in recognition of his achievements. And Michael, I leaned on Michael, who worked closely with Paul, to do the hard, heavy lifting, and because he knew much better than I ever did, even though I contributed to Paul as a private person, his organization, Michael was much closer and knew the deal much better of what Paul had actually done. So Michael did the work of drafting what you have, I believe, in front of you, and then I took that to Peter, and here we are. So, and I think I just sort of can't wait to get this approved and then send this off to Paul. I think he has no idea that it's going to happen, and that all the work that he did, and that he'll open the mail one day, and there'll be this hopefully shortly.
Good.
There'll be a whole whereas that he has to look at.
There you go. And from what Michael did and what Paul did, of course, over the years of dedication, and I feel also very strongly, and without going on too long, is that, climate change, many people have said, and I think probably a lot of people in this room, some of you agree, is the paramount issue of our time. And Paul put his shoulder to the wheel here in Brattleboro, and if he can go on in North Carolina to get a position continuing that work. He's still young, is still able to work and help his family at the same time. And this resolution helps him continue that work. We're all, as a planet, better off. Yep. How about that's how I feel.
Thank you. How's about I read the resolution?
You want someone else to
Would you
read it?
like to? Someone else like to?
I'll volunteer. if you don't
Good,
mind.
thank you.
Relieve the burden. The resolution is titled In Grateful Recognition of Paul Cameron. Whereas former Brattleboro Town Energy Coordinator Paul Cameron was well known locally, regionally, and across the state for his leadership and achievements regarding energy conservation, energy efficiency, and renewable energy. And whereas Paul organized well-attended workshops on solar technology, heat pumps, and pellet boilers, arranged guest speaker lectures, set up home energy tours, coordinated volunteer weatherization work, and participated in regional and statewide energy committee efforts. And whereas Paul formed the nonprofit Brattleboro Climate Protection in 2003 and began outreach work as well as collecting data on our local situation. And whereas for 14 years he worked tirelessly to reduce reliance on fossil fuels in Brattleboro while saving substantial money for the town. And whereas Paul was a point person in forming the Brattleboro Energy Committee, and he staffed that group for 9 years. And whereas the town benefited enough from Paul's work that representative town meeting began voting money, eventually $10,000 per year, for Brattleboro Climate Protection to support this work. And whereas Paul was instrumental in the Honeywell Performance Project to upgrade lighting and boilers, furnaces for the town, which has saved the town approximately $240,000 since 2008. And whereas Paul worked with the Department of Public Works, the Energy Committee members, and Green Mountain Power to convert all streetlights and other exterior lights to LEDs, eventually saving the town more than $100,000 per year. And whereas Paul helped obtain detailed energy audits of town buildings, resulting in recommended energy saving measures that will result in an estimated total savings of more than $2 million. Now, therefore, the Brattleboro Select Board hereby honors Paul Cameron with this citation to thank him on behalf of our grateful community and to wish him the best of all possible futures. Dated this 2nd day of May, 2017.
Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions about the resolution? Does anyone in the public?
Well, I think it's just great. I saved this town a bunch of money and educated a lot of people under the roof.
Great, thank you. So it looks like we're ready to, for a motion to accept that resolution. Does someone want to make one?
To approve the resolution in grateful recognition of Paul Cameron as presented.
We have a motion to approve the resolution in grateful recognition of Paul Cameron as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for your work on putting this together too.
I didn't know.
Okay, now we're going to get to the appointment of an energy coordinator. And just to recap, because Paul left, there was a vacancy in the energy coordinator position. And it's taken us a while to decide what to do. But we advertised or announced the application process, and we accepted applications up until April 24th. We received 3 applications. One of the individuals not dropped out, what's the word? Withdrew their application. So we have 2. Keo Akawa and Phoebe Gooding are the 2 applicants that we have right now to choose from. There was a process by which they filled out applications, which we all have in our packets. The select board, prior to this meeting tonight, we interviewed both candidates, and the town energy committee interviewed both candidates and gave us recommendations. Which was, I don't know if Michael Bosworth wants to come and talk about the recommendations. You pretty much like both of them for different reasons, and I don't know if you want to go into that further. But so we're tonight going to decide if we want one of the 2 of them, or we don't have to appoint anybody if we don't want to. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to come up and talk about what your thoughts are.
He's got a lot of paperwork with him.
Michael Bosworth, Chair of the Energy Committee. Last night, it was before Tom Franks withdrew. We actually interviewed all 3 of them, Tom Franks and Phoebe Gooding and Keo Akawa. And sort of an unusual interview because we interviewed them all together in the same room. So it made for interesting interview. And the Energy Committee spent some time after we're done interviewing them, trying to wrestle with, all right, whom do we like? We like anybody more than the others? And we came to the conclusion we could work with any of them, and now there were just 2, because overnight Tom Franks withdrew. But we really favored either Tom or Phoebe out of the 3, and Tom's no longer part of the mix. Phoebe, we really like her outreach, her marketing skills. She is doing some work. She's finishing up a degree at Antioch. She's doing some work for the Rich Earth Institute part-time. And so of the 2 remaining, that would be the one that we would favor. Is there anything else? Is that enough? Or
That's good. That's good. Thanks. It's perfect. Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any comments or questions before we go into nominations? Does anyone in the public have any? Yes, Dale. You have to go up to the.
Since they're so close and you like them for different reasons, to have a foreign student and an American student, could they work together as a split, or could one be an assistant?
Well,
So I understood that one was only going to be here till December. Was
well,
that
we're hoping
correct?
that whoever doesn't get picked will at least go onto the committee.
That's right.
Okay.
You know, and help along those lines.
We're going to encourage that.
Or it would be encouraging.
Yeah.
Because we think that.
English lessons. That's what she said.
Great. Do we have any nominations for the town energy coordinator?
I'd like to nominate Phoebe Gooding.
David Scholes has nominated Phoebe Gooding as town energy coordinator. Are there any other nominations?
I would nominate Kyo Akawa.
John nominates Kyo Akawa for town energy coordinator. Are there any further nominations? Okay, we're going to close the nominations. What we're going to do is vote until somebody gets the majority. Some of us have done this before, so we know, but we'll figure it out.
Sounds exciting.
You can basically vote for as many people as you want.
It works.
It's really bizarre.
Flawless.
Yeah, works flawless.
Always get the right thing.
Always get the right.
It's flawless.
We're going to take them as they were made. So all those in favor of appointing Phoebe Gooding as town energy coordinator, please raise your hand. 5 votes for Phoebe. All those in favor of appointing Kyo Akawa as town energy coordinator, please raise your hand. 2 votes for Kyo. All right. Phoebe Gooding is our town energy coordinator. So we want to congratulate her, and I think our sentiments are if Kyo would like to stay involved in the process, we very much would love her to. So I think we'll get that message to her as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll make sure she knows that. So thank you, Michael, for the help of the Energy Committee on this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to talk about some public works projects, and we have Hannah Tyler here.
Well, Hannah, you're up late.
We'll be up early too.
And you are up early.
First up is the Guilford Street Paving Project Bid Award.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Tyler. I'm the Highway and Utilities Superintendent for the town of Brattleboro. And this evening I'm here to request to award a bid for paving of a short section of Guilford Street to Vermont Roadworks of Guilford, Vermont in the amount of $35,728.45. We had a very competitive bid process this year and actually got 7 bids last Wednesday. One bid was from BDM Sweeper Service of Keene, New Hampshire in the amount of $46,246. A bid from Warner Brothers of Sunderland, Massachusetts in the amount of $45,975. A bid from Mitchell Sand and Gravel of Swansea, New Hampshire in the amount of $98,281. A bid from Springfield Paving of Springfield, Vermont in the amount of $40,005.85. The bid from Vermont Roadworks in the amount of $35,728.45. A bid from Johnson Asphalt Paving of Northfield, Massachusetts, $58,451. And Bazin Brothers of Westminster, Vermont, $39,653.40. This project is funded with the remainder of the FY17 budget. The conditions on Guilford Street extension, we call it, in between the 2 curves out there are deteriorating rapidly, very bad potholes and wheel ruts, and we're up there quite a bit patching it. So we'd like to put a little shim and an overlay out there and keep it going for another few years.
Hannah, do we have a base to go by on this, base price? Or, normally we have we know roughly where the bid should come in.
This was a very favorable bid. We were estimating about $75 a ton, and the bids came in. The Vermont Roadworks bid was around $59 a ton.
Okay.
So it's very favorable.
Good.
And it's also a good indicator. The 98,000 was a math error, so you should really just not pay attention to that one. The only anomaly really was the $58,000 bid, which indicates that maybe they're busier than some of these other firms. But otherwise, the other 5 bidders all were within about $10,000 of each other. I think it's a solid price.
Yeah. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
Nope.
Does anyone in the public have any questions about the Guilford Street paving project bid?
Yeah, I missed that. Who was the lowest bidder?
Vermont Roadworks of Guilford, Vermont.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
I move to award the bid for the Guilford Street paving project to Vermont Roadworks LLC in the amount of $35,728. This always blows my mind. And 45 cents.
We have a bid to award. We have a motion to award the bid for the Guilford Street paving project to Vermont Roadworks LLC in the amount of $35,728.45. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0. Now Hannah's going to talk to us about the Bonnyvale Road retaining wall bid award.
Last week, we also received bids to replace the failing retaining wall on Bonnyvale Road, right at the intersection of Bonnyvale Road where it comes out onto Western Avenue. The very old, dry-laid stone retaining wall is starting to go into the brook, and it's taking the road with it. We've had Jersey barriers there for a few seasons, and last year we were very fortunate to get some funding in the budget and also funding from a VTrans structures grant. We finally have all of our permits and design in order, so we're ready to go to construction. And last week we received 4 bids by the deadline. One from BUR Construction of Charlestown, New Hampshire in the amount of $245,000. One from Zaluzny Excavating of Vernon, Vermont in the amount of $252,900. One from Belco Excavating of Brattleboro, Vermont in the amount of $190,000. And one from Bernie LaRock and Son of Guilford, Vermont in the amount of $118,400. We are recommending awarding to the low bid. We spoke with the low bidder because they were quite a bit lower, but
That's my question.
they have a lot of jobs right in town, and they're very eager to do this project.
But that was a red flag for me a little bit. I mean, and I know all these people, so I mean, I'm just, Rocky, I hope you read the whole thing. So it's a lot lower than the availability of what we have for the project. Mm-hmm. So I'm just, it just concerns me a little.
Mm-hmm. That's why they interact. Whenever we get one that looks too low to be good, too good to be true, they sit down and go over the bid with the bidder and make sure that they're prepared to honor the specifications for the project for that price. And he has said yes for this.
Now, how much of this, because it says some of it's coming from the Vermont VTrans, is this the 118 all coming out of how much is coming out of the town?
We would use all of the grant money that was available to us first.
Okay. And we're hoping that's a lot.
It's $157,500, I think, plus our match to total $175,000.
Oh, okay.
So we're even quite a bit below the VTrans money that's been awarded to us.
Yeah, that's really good.
So does the remainder of that go back into?
It just remains unspent from the capital fund.
From the capital fund.
Correct.
Right. So it stays in your
coffers.
Stays in our capital fund so that it can be invested in another project.
Yeah.
Yes, the town.
But is that specifically for public works, or is that just?
No, it's the town's capital fund to be spent on the various capital improvements of the town.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I thought Hannah was going to Jamaica.
Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions? Does anyone in the public have any comments? Dale, come up to the.
Yeah. I grew up in construction, and we paved roads
we did waterways. At a low bid like that, they usually have some kind of adjustment because you run into things when you're in there. You might run into ledge that may need to be moved. Is there an adjustment in that contract for that person?
You're talking like a
There's not-
contingency?
Like a contingency?
In case they run into difficulties,
Wait
yes.
terms,
You always have contingencies with stuff like that. You usually do. So that they can take more money if they run into something.
We would,
Go ahead.
if there was something that was unaccounted for in the contract, we would have to negotiate outside of the contract with that contractor. And we wouldn't allow them to do any extraneous work that was going to be a substantial cost or to the town.
There's not an allocation towards unknowns. They're signing on to do this work for this figure. If they encounter something that's beyond the what was specified, it needs to be done in the job that's beyond what was specified, then that would be worked out between them and Public Works. I'd like to point out that there's $72,000 worth of room for such surprises, and it's a really small scale job. I mean, it's not like on the magnitude of, say, the Green Street retaining wall or something like that. This is a small, small section of a low retaining wall.
Right.
That's a pretty straightforward job.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we award the bid for the Bonnyvale Road retaining wall project to Bernie LaRock and Son Incorporated in the amount of $118,400.
We have a motion to award the bid for the Bonnyvale Road retaining wall project to Bernie LaRock and Son Inc. in the amount of $118,400. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Next up, we're talking about the purchase of the fire department rescue and pumper. And I'm assuming that's why Chief Bacassi, and Deputy Assistant Chief Howard is also here.
Good evening. Good evening. Mike Bacassi, Fire Chief. This is Assistant Chief Lenny Howard. Back several months ago, you'll remember we had an engine that failed state inspection, which we took off the road, and consequently we sold it basically for scrap metal to a farm who is using it for maple syrup. As sort of a preemptive strike, because it takes such a long time and it's so much work to spec an engine, when Assistant Chief Howard was promoted in September, this was the first thing that I handed him, was to get a group together and get this truck spec'd and ready to go out to bid. We've been before you a couple times, but this truly is Glenn's project, and I would like him to take it from here and explain to you where we're at.
Good evening. Tonight we are here, as you know, 2 weeks ago we came to you for the approval of going through HGAC, which is a company similar to like state bid for fire apparatus or bigger apparatus. In the memo, as you can see, there was a low bid of $328,977 from E1 Manufacturing and a high bid of $396,400 from Rosenbauer, and a middle bid from Pierce Manufacturing of $360,092. And this price here is what they're giving us is like a generic. This HGAC program goes to these manufacturers and says, what's your basic pumper price? And this is what they give them. And then once you determine the manufacturer you want to go with, you go to them, and then you begin to express what you want for a truck, for additions that will suit our department. And that's where we came to the bid from Pierce Manufacturing of $562,870,000. By us taking advantage of prepay in the HGAC program, we will save $27,374, which is a 4.9% savings of the regular purchase price and a 2.6% savings compared to what we budgeted, $550,000. So we are recommending tonight to allow you to have the town manager sign a purchase agreement with Minuteman Trucks of Walpole, Mass. To purchase one Pierce Saber rescue pumper for $535,496.
Yeah, I just want to add that the prepaying something, particularly prepaying something of this magnitude, is very unusual. Normally, we would sign a contract and receive the item and then pay for it when we know we've received it in good order. It is not unusual to do this in purchasing fire apparatus. And because these vehicles are so large and so expensive, the people who make them don't make very many of them. And as you saw in the backup materials, it takes about a year to manufacture the vehicle, taking the basic specifications and building onto that the particular needs of our department, especially for this to be a combination rescue pumper. So the recommendation to go ahead and capture this savings by doing the prepay, while it looks really unusual to you compared to all the normal kinds of contracts we award, is actually appropriate in purchasing a fire vehicle and a real advantage because of the high cost to be able to actually save the 4.5%. So
We've never done this before, though, have we?
prepaid, I don't know whether you have or not. This is the first fire engine I bought with you, but
We prepaid a chassis on one of these last two engines we bought. This is a prepay on the entire vehicle.
On the entire vehicle.
Though like Peter says it's unusual, they provide us with a bond that guarantees either the delivery and the warranty or our money back.
yeah, that's a good point. I should have mentioned that. Yeah. Plus, Pierce is a very well-established, yeah, exactly, reputable manufacturer of fire trucks.
Yeah, one of those.
I get one.
Save money.
Should have bought the old one.
So this fire truck will come, this price that we have, the 500, whatever it is, has all the bells and whistles, everything we need.
It'll be fully outfitted.
Yes, fully outfitted. That's the more professional way than saying bells and whistles.
Well, when you say that, this is fire department, of course they've got bells and
Oh,
whistles.
yeah.
And ladders.
A ladder. Okay, does anybody on the board have any comments or questions? Does anyone in the public have any comments or questions about us purchasing a pumper truck? Rescue pumper? Okay. Does anyone on the board want to make a motion?
I move to approve the purchase proposed from Pierce Manufacturing, Inc. in the amount of $535,496 for the prepaid purchase of a rescue pumper truck for the fire department and to authorize the town manager to proceed with this purchase.
We have a motion to approve the purchase proposal from Pierce Manufacturing in the amount of $535,496 for the prepaid purchase of a rescue pumper truck for the fire department and to authorize the town manager to proceed with this purchase. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank
John.
you.
And we're going to get it about a year.
About a year from now,
We can have a ribbon cutting.
we'll give you a ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to talk about 2 grant applications for the skateboard park.
Yes, there's a $45,000 application to TD Charitable Foundation of TD Bank and a $25,000 application for a Community Partners grant from Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation. These have both been brought forward by the Recreation and Parks Department on behalf of the Skateboard Committee, Skate Park Committee, I should say, BASIC. And would be a significant step towards the final funding that's necessary in order to make the park a reality. So we ask for your authority to proceed with the applications.
Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions? Does anyone in the public have any comments or questions about the grants? Okay. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion so we can get these grants?
Move we approve 2 grant applications by the Recreation and Parks Department on behalf of Basic, Brattleboro Area Skate Park is coming, for design and construction of a skate park at Living Memorial Park as follows. TD Charitable Foundation grant from TD Bank in the amount of $45,000 and Community Partners grant from Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation in the amount of $25,000.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 2 grant applications by the Recs and Park Department on behalf of Basic for the design and construction of a skateboard park at Living Memorial Park as follows. 1, the TD Charitable Foundation grant from TD Bank in the amount of $45,000, and 2, the Community Partners grant from Lowe's Charitable and Educational Foundation in the amount of $25,000. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0.
I would like to just publicly thank Melissa and Jeff Clark too for this. They have done a yeoman's job on all this stuff, so kudos to them and hope they can find some more money.
Right now we need to talk about the Rental Improvement Program Loan Committee. Annette Cappy has resigned. I'm sure she wants to spend her life enjoying herself now that she's not town manager anymore. So we're being asked to accept her resignation.
Nope.
And appoint John Hoover from the Brattleboro Area Affordable Housing Corporation as the representative in Annette's place. I don't know if Peter has any more.
The only thing I would note is this is one of those boards where there's actually, or committee where there's actually designated seats. And so this is the seat that is designated for someone to represent Brattleboro Area Affordable Housing. As you pointed out, Annette did that and has now resigned from that position. And so Brattleboro Area Affordable Housing has actually put forward John Hoover's name for your approval this evening.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any comments, questions? Anyone in the public have any comments, questions? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion so we can give Annette her retirement?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Annette Cappy from the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee and to appoint John Hoover to the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee.
We have a motion to accept the resignation of Annette Cappy from the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee and appoint John Hoover to the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0. Everybody's yawning down here now.
Doing good.
Next up is something that we waited for John and David to come back to talk about, which is the comprehensive review of town operations and the select board goals. And I don't know, first we want to talk about the comprehensive review of town operations first, and then we'll go to goals. So Peter wants to talk to us about.
Sure. So in future years, we expect to actually probably have a more complicated report to offer about the CRTO. But as you know, the original CRTO was first approved back in October. So this is essentially a 6-month report. And given that time frame, we're pleased to advise that 4 of the items that were in progress, the long-term financial plan, the review of all current and potential sources of non-tax revenue, increasing where possible, the review of non-resident recreation fees, and reconfiguring the library interior to improve service delivery and achieve operational efficiencies. Those 4 items were completed during this period. So they moved from the in progress to the already accomplished list. I won't read each one. They're set forth in the materials for the meeting if the public wishes to go to review them. But there were 8 separate items that moved off of the short-term goals list and into the in progress. So there were 8 things that we've actually begun to make some progress on, and would hope that maybe by the time we're reporting to you in next year's cycle, we'd be able to say those have been completed. And then there were 3 changes to the document that we're recommending. We've added 2 short-term goals. One is to use the Brooks Memorial Library's Foundation Center resources to enhance grant-seeking efforts in all town departments. That's a service that the library is now providing to the community, and it is a great idea. Star suggested that we add it to this, saying, why would we not sort of, again, in the spirit of the earlier discussion, mindfully not just know that it's there, but mindfully say, let's use that resource for our team in seeking the grants that we seek, and so we will. And then the other just represents a transition that's occurring in emergency management throughout southeastern Vermont because of the continuing reduction in the level of risk at the Vermont Yankee site. The town has very good, because let me say, because of Yankee being there and because of the work that went on for 40 years around preparedness for radiological emergencies, the town actually has done a really extensive and effective job of putting in place proper emergency plans and training a lot on those plans and actually being ready for dealing with emergencies. But there's been a very heavy focus on radiological emergencies in all of that work. So what this represents is our commitment to continue to be vigilant about planning and training for large-scale emergencies, but to broaden the focus of that to an all-hazards plan beyond the radiological focus of the past. So those 2 are proposed to be added. And then the one that is proposed to be deleted, I will say that starting with Steve Barrett and moving on through the discussion here at the Select Board and with others in the community, I was urged at the time that we created the CRTO that to remove this one then, that maybe this would not be so well received by the community. And I said, no, I think, it's a small thing, but it's something we ought to have in there, which is to stop providing winter sand for private use by town residents. I received a lot of feedback about this one during the course of this past winter. And
prickly?
And so you were right, and I was wrong. And I'm recommending to you this evening that one be deleted from the list. Otherwise, there's some minor changes to text in here, but the plan is about what you saw 6 months ago, and we would ask that you approve the first annual update of the CRTO.
I just want to say I'm glad that you did the CRTO, because I think not that we weren't doing a good job before, but I think it really focuses us, I know as a select board in the town, on really looking at what we got to do and making sure we get it done. So I really appreciate this a lot, and I know it takes a lot of effort to put it together, but I think once you get it together, it makes everybody's life a little bit easier.
Totally agree.
So
thank you.
That's really good.
It's my favorite document that I've read since being on the board, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Curled up on the couch, my sticky fire.
It doesn't have any wear at it.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I'll talk to you in 6 months.
Yeah. So does anyone on the board have any comments or questions about the comprehensive review of town government?
Can I just make one comment? Please, just a cautionary comment. With the transition from primary emphasis on radiological emergencies to an all hazards approach, there should probably be recognition in there that the radiological dangers have not subsided.
Absolutely.
I can talk all about that.
But I know that that's not what you weren't implying that.
No, that's right. We're not suggesting that we stop thinking about radiological altogether. What we are suggesting is it's time now to focus on a variety of different kinds of incidents and train on a variety of different kinds of incidents, one of which will certainly continue to be radiological.
I just wanted to underline that a little bit, because
Absolutely.
I knew that's what you meant, but just wanted to make sure. All on the same page. Thank you.
It's good to be. All right, do we want to, make a motion to approve the updated comprehensive review of town operations as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the updated comprehensive review of town operations as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries 5-0. Now we talk about select board goals. Each year,
To make it through the year.
to make it through the year, we try to have a goal, yes, to make it through the year. We always put together goals for any given year. As some of us know, who've been here before, sometimes we make the goals and sometimes we don't reach our goals, but it's not for a lack of not trying. Sometimes things get in the way, whether it's other issues that come up or the goal is harder to achieve than we actually thought. So what we want to do is look at what our goals, what we want our goals to be this year. And it is a living, breathing document, so it doesn't mean that we can't add goals or take goals off. You know, this is not the be all and end all. And in our packets, there was a list of the goals that we set for the year 2016 select board set. And we achieved a lot of them, which was really pretty good. You know, one year we didn't achieve any of them, but we did pretty good last year. So what Peter has done is just giving us things for our consideration. And what I'm just gonna do is read them so that the people in the audience know what we're talking about. And these are some of the goals that the town manager is asking us that we might wanna consider making our goals. There are topics. The first topic is financial matters, and within that is review the existing pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes, and consider negotiating for increases of those and or the creation of new pilots. 2, work with the League, Vermont League of Cities and Towns to establish a regional economic hub coalition and work with members of that coalition to exchange information, develop strategy, and engage with state legislators. And these are actually things we've talked about as goals in the past, and some of them are ongoing. The second subject is buildings, which would be to complete the police fire facilities project within budget by early 2018. And the second is to develop a plan, hopefully by the end of 2017, for the restoration of future use of the municipal center. The third topic is energy efficiency and sustainability. And the first would be to continue to implement energy efficiency projects in town facilities as recommended by the 2016-17 town energy audits and as other opportunities arise. The second point would be to decide how to structure future town efforts regarding energy efficiency and sustainability, including deciding whether to hire a full-time or part-time town staff person to act as an energy coordinator or sustainability officer. The fourth category is policies, which would be to review and update the personnel policies and employee handbook by the end of December 2017, and also update or review and update the procurement policies by February 28th, 2018. And the last issue area is public outreach, which would be to increase the use of social media to keep residents well informed about town meetings, projects, and events. And the second would be to update and improve the town's website. So those are things that the town manager has recommended. Again, we can add, delete, do whatever we want, because these are our goals. And again, it's a living, breathing document. So I don't know what people's thoughts are on about these proposals, or what we want to add and how we want to move forward. Does anyone want to add goals, take goals away?
I think it gives us a lot, you know. So it's, you know, if we could accomplish these, it'd be wonderful.
I think this is a really decent start. If I were to add anything, it would be maybe to formalize the adding of the diversification of town staff initiatives. Otherwise, I really think this is a comprehensive list that covers many of what I've heard from community members that they're concerned about.
Is anybody else?
I think it's a comprehensive list. I think there are 3 things that were really specific in last year's goals. that aren't on here, which I would want to add.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what they are. And the other is I'd like to, at the bottom of it, say you have a bold-faced topic of implementation, and that we do quarterly updates. One of the things that happens with goals is you forget to look at them.
Yeah.
Once you set them. The three that are missing, if you look at the May 17, 2016 document from the goals we adopted last year, the financial planning and decision making, the third one about reviewing the utility fund financial model, I think we need to do that really conscientiously.
We talked about
We're going
that.
anyway.
Yes,
Yeah.
and is it the May? Was it the next May meeting that we're going to be talking about the
Right,
utility
and
budget?
on May 16th, you'll have the utility budget, and we will have that continued discussion of what you began on March 21st.
But why don't we put it? Can we put it in as
Sure.
a bullet?
Sure.
Under financial.
Yeah, and then we can just put it done.
Yeah, that's fine.
The second one was actually the next one on that list of financial planning decision making. That's take financial actions in a programmatic context. We talked about trying to identify areas where the budget can be done programmatically, where the idea is that you identify the goals that you have in that area, the things you want the money to be spent on, and then you look and see, are we getting the things that we want with this money that's being spent? And we made some progress in there, but I don't think it's time yet to take it off the list.
Yeah, sure.
And the third one under Regional Economic Hub is just the second one under Regional Economic Hub, but the third thing I wanted to add back in was the second point there about continuing select board outreach and dialogue about supporting economic development and building a positive business climate.
Where's that one?
This two.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right here. You see that where that is?
Sure.
This is the continue select board outreach and dialogue about supporting economic development and building a positive business climate. Yeah.
That's something we talk about a lot, but again, having it there and revisiting it every few months to see what will be done. And then I had a question about, and this is kind of just a clarification. I've been carrying this document around since December. It was one of Russell's reports in the correspondence. And he mentioned that the town assessor and the office administrator engaged in an exchange with the Department of Taxes concerning codes and statutes which are the most appropriate to justify the tax-exempt properties in the town. And I wondered, did that have anything to do with looking at pilot and at places where we might have some opportunity to?
It does. One of the things that's going to be tricky about it when we get into the meat and potatoes of the pilot piece is there's different parts of the law that affect different kinds of organizations differently from each other.
Yeah.
And so we have a very unique case here in Brattleboro where there's actually been there's a statute that dates back to the mid 1800s and some litigation that happened between the town and the retreat some years ago. The retreat won that litigation based on the old statute, and so there's some real constraints on the town's ability to modify the pilot that's paid by the retreat. That's not to say that we can't have constructive dialogue with the retreat around that issue. So I think there is an opportunity there, but there's some significant legal constraint. And then for the different kinds of nonprofit organizations that we have that are tax exempt for different reasons from each other, there's some different provisions in state law as to how the town, in some cases, is actually already compensated, or what we can and cannot be compensated for. So I think personally that the first item under financial matters adequately covers that, because we intend to take a really hard look at pilots, and in so doing, we'll be assessing those differences among the nonprofits.
Yeah. Anyone else on the board have any comments, questions? Does anyone in the public have any comments, questions about our goals?
This is living and breathing.
Yeah, living and
Because
breathing.
I get nervous because I'm like, I still have, I'm just getting my head above water and I have all these questions.
It's
about
always living. And what I would suggest, unless anybody disagrees with me, is that we have Peter draft up, add what David was just talking about, add it, and we get a clean copy of this so we know exactly what we're talking about. Does that sound okay? So we know what we're talking about, and we bring it up again at the next meeting?
Yeah, I like
Does that make sense?
That will also allow me, based on the conversation that we're about to have,
Okay,
it'll allow me to understand
Yes. Yeah.
where you are collectively on that, so that I can word something that tries to reflect that, your intent on that matter.
Yeah,
So,
because I think it is, and always is, Brandy, if there's a time, I mean, we've lived through it, we don't, the good thing is we don't get in trouble if we don't reach a goal. I mean, we might be disappointed in ourselves, but there's always a good reason why we don't. But there's nothing restricting us, just saying, hey, there's an issue come up. We want this to be added to our goal list.
Good, because so many things are of concern in the community, from the shelter to bike stuff to everything, that I wouldn't want people to say, I told them I was concerned about this and they didn't even put it on their goals list.
And another thing too to think about is, just because something isn't on the goals list doesn't mean we don't talk about it. You don't have to be on a goal list to be a priority.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
that's true.
I think that you should feel comfortable in that too.
So it's natural if we can think about a few more things. What's the process between now and our next meeting if we want to throw out at least a discussion topic for consideration?
We'll just
bring it up.
Yeah, we'll just
bring it up next
Yeah,
time, because I'm feeling like I need
or
to do
bring it up
little-
before that.
Yeah, I mean, this is not something, we do not have to go to our next meeting and approve these. We can put it to the next meeting. You know what I mean? So if you think of something, there's no
Yeah, I just
deadline.
feel like I need a little more time to process
Just
a
in
few.
general, though, send it to Peter.
That's it exactly.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So if you have another specific item you'd like to have added, send that to me. And what I'll do is in the backup materials for the next meeting, I'll circulate that to all of you so that you'll have the 3 or 4 days before the meeting to be thinking about it.
Yeah. But again, don't feel constrained that this is it. And if you don't do it now, it's not ever happening.
I think goals just pop up. All of a sudden something.
You're like in the shower and you're like, what we should do?
No, I mean, we may not even have anything to do with it. A goal will pop up just because of public participation or whatever, and then you act on it.
Well, that's also why.
That's why I always get a kick out of making goals, because it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, because again, a goal doesn't have. We don't have to wait to put something on a goal list to talk about it.
Right.
Because if we did that, we'd never talk about anything because we were waiting to get it on the goal list. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, so we'll have a new draft list for the next meeting, plus whatever anybody thinks about in advance of the meeting. And we'll just keep going from here. Living, breathing document.
Thanks.
Now we want to talk about diversification of town staff, and I know, David, you're the one that wanted this on the agenda. So, talk about it?
We were sitting right here, Tim and Brandy and I, and Dave Cadger, and we were informed that the town of Brattleboro employs no African American, has no African American employees, and we know that, and I didn't know that, and then so the question in my mind, I don't know that it was asked directly or not, is what are we going to do about that? I mean, it's not acceptable at this point to not have more diversification. It weakens the community, and it leaves a large group of people unrepresented, and it's something that needs to be fixed. That's a deep gap in our problem in our country.
Yeah. And I think it can be challenging for people to apply for jobs where they don't already see themselves physically represented. Suddenly it starts to become weird, to that person. And then even though it's not really weird, it just keeps perpetuating itself until we have a problem. So.
I've thought about this a lot, and I just don't know how to approach it yet, because I don't want to sound and I don't know how to word this. And I really want to pick my words carefully, because it's just because we don't have an African American on staff doesn't mean that we're not diversified. I don't know how, if we don't have any other ethnicities, in our service or whatever, I don't know how that reflects on us as a town. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you choose an employee by whoever applies. And if an African American applies and they're qualified, I know we would hire them. So I'm having this hard time with this discussion about that we're not diversified. I think we are. I mean, again, I don't know where you draw the line between, you know, I don't know how to word this, you know, and I don't want to say going out of your way to hire an African American or you know, so that's where I'm having this problem in my head, just with, and it's not because I'm not diversified. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that we're in southern Vermont. I mean, I don't know how to else explain that.
Would it help if?
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we all do. And I think maybe would it help if the town manager, maybe for the next meeting or whenever, could put some, I don't know if there's statistics or something that you could come back to us with, you know, would that be helpful to people or not? You know, I mean,
May I say something about that?
Yeah. I don't know stats.
If you have specific questions that we can be responsive to statistically, we certainly will do that. I think actually what might be useful, if you want a staff report to have some additional consideration around this after your preliminary discussion tonight, I think what would be very useful would be for us to describe to you our processes by which we post openings and go through recruitment processes and review the qualifications of candidates so that you can assess the sufficiency and completeness of that in terms of our openness to every type of person who would be
and just a sec, Dale.
applying for such positions.
Yeah, and I personally think it's important that we're talking a broader segment of diversifying. You know, and it's interesting because David, when I saw this, I remember when we did the town manager search. How many by the end? What was you guys? We had looked at like 100 resumes or something.
Oh my God! More
and
than
remember, we only got, I think it was like 2 women applied out of those, and I feel like it's the 100th time we put out the whatever number time we put out the ad again. We added something on the bottom that says women are encouraged to apply, and we still got 2 out of honest to God. So it's an issue, and it is an issue. We have to figure it out. But I think hearing, how we do it is helpful, and I know how we did it for the town manager search. It's a difficult thing. It's how do we do it?
And that's the thing about advertising, about putting it out there, saying, well, women are encouraged to apply. African Americans are encouraged to apply. It seems disingenuous to me. That just seems that it's going in the opposite direction.
But what it might be though too is figuring out when a job is announced or posted, that we're posting it in places that different people can see it. It might be something as easy as that.
So, what if we took, the resume and we sent it to, or the job posting and we sent it to Curtis and said, hey, can you send this out to your newsletter list? Because he may have people that he's in contact with that we might not, or Roots Social Justice, send it to Shayla Linton and say, can you blast this out to your email list or your newsletter list? We've got this opening. And that way we kind of making a 1-foot attempt to speak to an audience that possibly we're not reaching without it being like we're pushing or we're trying, sounding like we're fishing it in, but we're still saying, we have a job opening that we want you to know about. Can you blast this out to the people that you know?
I like that idea of sort of harnessing a lot of people already existing in our community that have expertise about getting out the word.
Right, because we can't be experts in everything.
Certainly not.
We have people that know people that they're trying to get us to reach. So why not utilize them?
Yes. So
I know, but
I think, can I try to?
No, go
articulate
ahead.
something?
No, please do, because I'm having a hell of a time.
I think you're reacting to maybe what you feel maybe is an implication of a quota of
It kind of sounds that way, that.
I think that was a word we haven't used yet, but I think that's a scary word.
It is a very scary word to me.
For a number of reasons.
Right.
One of which it's perceived as unfair and on basic level, and also it's legally problematic.
It's very
much so for the town,
Right.
and it's our responsibility to make sure the town is not open to legal challenge in that way. But I think what we're trying to get at here is access to the information. People of diverse backgrounds and situations, and women, people of color, people of various sexual orientations, knowing that they feel welcome to apply in a town like this, and that it's not just a town in Vermont, which is admittedly very white.
But how do you do that on a broad spectrum? I mean, you were just saying get a hold of Curtis and Sheila.
Right.
Well,
and there might be more.
I know.
Yeah.
Is there an Asian group that we can get a hold of? Is there is there a women's group? Is there I think we get kind of pigeonholed a little bit, and I hate to use the word quota, but I mean it almost it feels like that to me. It feels like we're fishing for a quota, and I hate that.
But I think it'll circle back to exactly what you want, which is the qualified person gets the job. So in the end, no matter who we blast it out to, Peter's still going to only hire the right man or woman for the job.
Exactly.
We're just casting a wider net.
Yep, Peter.
I'd like to add to that even if we weren't having a diversity conversation, the wider our net gets casted when we're hiring, the better off we are. The larger our pools of applicants are, the better off we are in terms of finding the right person for any given position. And so I think maybe what we want to do is turn this idea of, we definitely want to leverage other people's knowledge and networks. I think maybe what we want to do is turn it from identifying specific people that we want to shoot stuff out on our behalf to being open to anybody who's willing to participate in that and be part of throwing our net wider to take our postings and send it to anybody. Because, as you say, at the end of the day, there's going to be a review process to determine who's the best for the position. But reaching a wider audience in the first instance is going to create stronger applicant pools.
When we did that for the town manager search, we started off kind of regional, and then we just said, well, we got to go, cross country, and we did, and so that's all I have to say about that.
I have a few things to say about that. One is that we've got a growing African American community here in Brattleboro in southern Vermont, and they are not included in our government, in our town employees. And
can I?
No, let me talk about that.
Right,
You talked for a long time, and I want to respond to some of that.
All right.
Okay.
I guess got to write that down.
And take notes.
I have to.
And we have processes in place that we have used, and they have not succeeded in drawing either qualified or, as far as I know, even unqualified African American candidates. When we tried to find a town manager, if we had decided that we wanted to have a woman as town manager, that was important, we would have identified some organizations that recruit women because in those fields, and we would have found somebody that way. If we want to, and I think we do want to recruit African Americans, we've got an open fire department spot right now. We've got 3 open police department slots. And I think that making an affirmative action, actually making an effort to identify, to find people and to encourage them to apply, to find people that are qualified, because obviously we're not going to hire unqualified people, and there are lots of them. But to get those people to apply for the position, they have to know it's available, and we have to reach out to them. It takes an effort, and I think that the idea that we're in Southern Vermont and we're all real white and we're doing the best, so we represent our community and that's fine. It ignores the historical reality of what's happened with African Americans over the course of our history, and the reason that they're not just all over the place and qualified and applying for these jobs. And it's not, we've been waiting for time, enough time goes by and it'll all work out and everybody will have the same economic opportunities and everybody will have the same social and family capital and everybody's parents will own property and all our families will be intact. But those things aren't true yet. And time isn't going to make it happen. It's not going to happen when everybody when their hearts are all of a sudden pure and they're no longer prejudiced. And it's not going to happen by waiting for people to pull themselves up by the bootstraps if you don't have bootstraps. I mean, this is an historic oppression over hundreds of years. Families were destroyed. People were not given, even through the 50s and 60s in our lives, people did not have adequate or equal economic opportunity. So they don't have training, they don't have background, they don't have jobs, they don't have the family support that puts them in positions like this. If that's going to be made better, people that are aware of it have to get out of the way and find ways to include those people. So the African American people in this community will look at the police department and they'll see somebody that looks like them and they think, well, maybe I'll be a policeman, maybe I'll be a big brother, big sister. And who knows what's going to come of it. But I think to say, well, all the things that were recommended, try it. Let's send it out further. Let's talk to people that we already know. Let's expand, spread the net as wide as we can get it. But I think we need to be purposefully and consciously pushing to find qualified African American people for these positions that we currently have open now. And there's not a problem with the law. Diversity is one of the things you can consider in hiring, particularly when there's a marked lack of it, and there is a marked lack of it. We're doing better in gender issues. We've got some women in pretty prominent roles at this point, and will be in the heads of departments, hopefully, if they stay with the system. But the process hasn't worked. And it's not something that we can just leave alone and somehow it's going to work itself out. It's not going to work itself out. And to think, it's been 150 years since the Civil War, so, it's some other problem. The problem is the history. The problem is what's happened and what it's done to people and what it's done to the supports that they have and the family and the economic supports that they have. And we have to go out of our way to make progress with that problem, to fix that problem. So I think, I'm happy to try all the things that you just said, but I think we've got to try them and see if it works. And if it doesn't, I think we've got to be much more conscientious. We paid the Vermont League of Cities and Towns a couple of $1,000s 2 or 3 times to find candidates for us. So it's not an unusual thing to do. And I'm sorry that it rubs in your craw, John, or it feels like it's not fair or it's a quota thing or something, but it is fair. It's the thing that needs to be done to make this country whole. And if we don't, we have to do it too. It's not just the places where there are large concentrations or really, in cities where the poverty and the second-class schools are really evident. It's here too, and it has to be done everywhere. And we have to set an example for our kids, for our grandkids, and for the rest of this community. So I feel strongly we've got to do a lot more, because if you can't tell, we've got to do a lot more than just advertise more broadly.
Do we want to, at the next meeting, does it make sense for you to come and talk to us about what happens, like what you just suggested?
If the board would like that.
And does that make sense to at least get a report on how we do things now? Because I don't know how we do things now beyond how we did the town manager search, which we sort of, I don't want to say we made it up, but we were sort of...
Well, we followed the instructions of the people who know how to do it.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That would be,
Right, I mean, so if that makes sense, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, at least having the town manager have an opportunity to talk to us about how things are done now, and then we can figure out how we...
Yes, could we do that June 6th rather than May 16th? Is that okay? Just so I can do a complete job of preparing for that.
I mean, I think that's a good first step, because I think, David, we all agree that we need to have a more diverse workforce. I mean, I would love it if it wasn't just the town, but the the state, and I think we're all on the same page with agreeing on that. I think it's figuring out how to make it happen. And if Peter can tell us what the town does now, then we can have that discussion and figure out what we need to do. Does that make sense for a first step for this?
You betcha.
Okay. Does anyone in the public have anything that they would like to say?
Yeah, my father was the first black man born here. Okay, so I grew up here. Sheila Littman is related to me. Now, what you said was absolutely perfect, because you don't know the history here about racism and stuff. You know a little bit, you know more, because I sent you some paperwork before. Do you remember that? I sent it to your office. I'll send it to you again.
I was born and raised in southern Vermont.
Yeah, me too.
So
you know what you know of it, and I know, what I know of it. Okay? So sending it out, being wide open, is one thing. But just remember, if you do bring somebody in, Asians are more acceptable. Native Americans are more acceptable. You bring a black man into town, especially, or a black woman into town to hold a position, you're going to have some trouble with a lot of people here. So it won't matter. Bring them in. Let the people get used to having someone here. My cousin, who is totally white, she was she was a detective on the police force here. I don't know if anybody of you remember that. She was the first female. She was so harassed, she had to leave. Now we have females, but it took her to be harassed and put through hell in order for women to come into the police force here. But it has to be done. Thank you, David, for bringing that up.
Thank you. So I guess our action plan will be at the June 6th, I can't remember now, meeting. We'll hear what we do now, and that way we can assess
See where we wanna
that.
go.
Does that make sense? Does that sound okay?
And in addition to that, I'll add to the goals for your consideration at the next meeting, a statement about our intent to work on this together.
Yeah. Does that sound good? Oh, yes. Come on up. Yeah. Come to the mic so people can hear you.
I can't really hear all of you.
Oh,
Your voices suddenly got much quieter when you were on this topic. I have two questions. One is, the statement was made that we are already diversified. So I guess I need to get a definition of what is diversification, if we are already diversified. The second question or issue or statement that I'm interested in is, if this is where it is on the agenda, this is another feeling that I have about the importance and the seriousness or the genuine interest in this topic. Look where it is. It's 9:45. There's 6 of us, I think, maybe 7 or 8 of us here from the general public. And that makes a statement in itself also. I applaud what the gentleman said over here. He seems to have a more in-depth understanding of what the situation is with diversification in this part of the world. And I appreciated that very, very much. And I just wanted to say that, those two things. So could I get a response in terms of, if we're already diversified, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Oh, no, I didn't say it wasn't broke.
Oh.
I didn't say it wasn't broke. And I don't think that came out probably the way it should have, and I don't know how I phrased it about being diversified.
You said we are already diversified.
We're not diversified. I mean, the town in itself is diversified. I think that's where I was going with. It's a lot more diversified than it was 30 years ago.
I think that we're we're focusing on positions
Right.
in the town rather than walking down the
Right,
street.
right. So, no, as far as positions go, we're not diversified. But again, I didn't want, and this is where I was having a hard time coming up with the right words. I didn't want the quota system to be used.
No,
Not at all. You know, because I think that does an injustice more than it helps.
No, but if the efforts to recruit someone of color have not been successful, then maybe the efforts need to be changed. Maybe a new approach or additional approaches. I don't say throw away the ones you've already been using, but maybe some additional, more creative approaches need to be employed. I know every ad that the government or since I can speak very authoritatively about academia, every ad has a statement about someone mentioned all the different categories of people who are especially invited to apply. But that's not in any of the statements that I heard that the ads were put out here. Those statements aren't in there. It's just apply if you are interested in this position. You're not saying people of color, or I think someone mentioned sexual orientation, gender, or whatever. Those kinds of statements are not put in your ads.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to get the facts on exactly how we advertise. So I wouldn't make that. We're going to figure out it. We're going to know all of that at the June meeting.
And where it is on the agenda, look.
Yeah, and that wasn't done on purpose.
I know.
It'll be in a different spot the next time we talk about it.
Well, actually, the old business, so it'll be right up front.
It'll be right up front because it's old business.
Yeah. You know, there's a song out that goes, I know.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but it was not put on the last for any. I don't even know what my word
It
is.
wasn't designed to be last.
That's
but
right.
It is.
That's right.
So maybe that needs to be changed.
Yeah,
also.
it will be. It'll be up first the next time we talk about it.
Well, then I wasn't going to come back, but if it's going to be first.
Now you're going to, not very first, but first
not the
under.
very first, but up front.
First under old business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Tim, you were going to say something. Please.
I was, but I think she's satisfied with that answer. I was going to point out that about an hour ago, maybe that's how long it was, we had 2 applicants in front of us who were not white men.
Right.
It's very exciting.
And that is not a fix to the solution. It's a small role, but that says something. That's the type of pool of applicants that we want to see before us more and more. And I think there's no one up here that would argue with that. That's what we want to see more of. And it's similar, I think, to the Charter for Compassion that we all signed on to today. These intents that we make publicly and as a community really can help us get to this place. And we're all committed to keep talking about it and figure out the best way to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to continue the discussion because I think we all recognize it's something we need to talk about. Is there any other comments or questions from anybody on the board? Anyone in the public? It's 10:03.
This is almost a record.
And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor of it? We have one more?
Don't we have one more thing? We can go make it to 10:30 instead of.
No, we don't. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody who was here and not here, and thanks for participating.